You able to hear me?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. As soon as our clerk gets here, we'll start.
He was in reset.
Someone was actually arrested for litter.
There's no reason. Do the crime, can't do the time.
If nothing else, it's just
He's waiting for the
such
clerk.
an extreme waste of resources. It's like, this person's begging for $1, so let's spend $3,000 keeping them in jail for X number of days.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Fantasia Abraham.
She's approaching, Your Honor.
All right, good morning. Please tell us your name.
Good morning. My name is Fantasia Elise Abraham.
Ms. Abraham, you were arrested on a charge of battery. Your bond was set at 0. Do we have any prior history on Ms. Abraham?
Judge, Ms. Abraham has 2006 to 2018 trespassing, possession of alcohol for under 21, possession of cannabis, a DUI, which she is currently on probation in case number 2018 CT 3197, and she was sentenced to probation on March 8th. She also has history out of Georgia and New York.
Well, I'm going to set bond in this case in the amount of $500. It will be conditioned upon supervision by pretrial release. If she is released, it'll be a condition that she not have contact directly or indirectly with Alfred Stengel. She will not return to the residence at 721 Mabott Street, although she may do so on one occasion accompanied by law enforcement to retrieve any personal possessions she may have at that residence. She will not possess or consume alcoholic beverages or controlled substance without a prescription. Based on this arrest, I do find probable cause that she did violate her probation on the DUI case, so I'll order she be held without bond on the violation of probation pending further order of the court. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent her. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
That case is out of Osceola, right?
Yes.
The VLB, thank you.
Solis Engel.
Mr. Engel?
Morning,
Good
sir.
morning, Your Honor.
State your name, please.
Solis A. Engel.
Mr. Engel, you're arrested on a warrant for failure to appear for trial on the charge of burglary of a conveyance. Your bond is set at 0. I believe you're already represented by the Public Defender's Office. This case will be set for
That's correct, Your Honor.
set for trial. Yes.
If the defense may be heard, I think Mr. Engel is before, Mr. Engel's indicated that you are actually the judge that he's before in this case.
Correct.
There was a change of counsel, and so he indicated that from going from private counsel to a public defender resulted in him being told, just as a proffer to the court, that he didn't need to be there. He turned himself in Miami, and so it's not his intention to evade court. He hasn't had any failures to appear or any issues in the past 2 years with going to court, so we would ask the court to consider setting a bond because this was not a willful failure to appear, and Mr. Engel took proactive steps to turn himself in.
All right. I will set the case for a hearing tomorrow morning at 8:30. And Mr. Engel, we can address the matter and get a little more information, but the court will consider setting bond tomorrow then. All right? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Courtroom number,
Yes, courtroom 5F at the Osceola County Courthouse, 8:30.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, Starley Aselta. Good morning, state your name.
Morning, Starlia Celta.
All right, Ms. Aselta, you were arrested on a warrant for grand theft. You have a bond of $500. There's also an arrest for grand theft and scheme to defraud. Your bond was set at 0 on those charges. I'm going to set bond.
Your Honor, we don't have, do you have a case number on the other charges? We don't have the
I do.
other grand theft and,
We only have one case.
Oh, okay, I've got paperwork for 2, looks like.
November 30th, maybe the officer included it just for information purposes?
Yeah, let me see, maybe it's the same case number. It is the same case number, I'm sorry. It's just one case. The state filed an information
Okay.
charging grand theft. So the bond is set at $500. The public defender's office is appointed.
Your
to-
Honor,
Yes.
Mrs. Celta qualifies for pretrial release.
Well, let me finish. The bond right now is set for $500. The public defender's office is appointed to represent Mrs. Celta. And what prior criminal history, if any, does she have?
Judge, from 2016 to 2018, retail theft, grand theft, possession of paraphernalia, possession of controlled substance, a county ordinance, possession of cocaine, loitering, and the last thing that she was convicted was a trespass in 2018.
I'm going to leave the bond at $500. Thank you. Bobby Baker,
Your Honor, next is,
I'm sorry.
we would waive the reading of the charges on Mr. Baker.
All right. Very well, state your name, sir.
Bobby Baker.
Mr. Baker, you were charged on, arrested for 3 counts. The court actually finds no probable cause as to the second count. And so as to that count, you'll be released on your recognizance. Your bond is $5,000 on the first count, $500 on the third count. You are represented by the Public Defender's Office. Thank you.
Thank
All right. John Chumney.
Mr. Chumney bonded, Your Honor.
Okay, very well. Nelson Camacho. State your name,
Morning,
please.
Your Honor.
Morning, state your
Nelson
name.
Camacho.
Mr. Camacho, you arrested on a warrant for failure to appear on a charge of no valid driver's license. You have a bond of $500. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Thank you.
Your Honor, Mr. Chumney's indicated that he cannot afford any bond. He's got a job of 14 years and 2 dependents. He's indicated the failure to appear was a...
I'm not going to reduce the bond today. He can seek that from the county judge. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Corey Cox. Corey Cox. Someone wake her up.
If you don't come up here, you're not going to get your charges heard or a bond, right?
Ms. Cox over here.
All right, state your name, please.
Corey K.O.R.I. Cox, COX.
All right, Ms. Cox, you arrested on a warrant out of Orange County for failure to appear on a charge of possession of cocaine. Your bond is set at 0. You have the right to be represented by a lawyer. If you cannot afford to hire one will be appointed to represent you when you get to Orange County. You should be brought up to Orange County probably on Monday or Tuesday. Thank you. Anna Cruz. Good morning. State your name.
Good morning, Anna Cruz.
All right, Ms. Cruz, you arrested on a charge of battery. Your bond was set at 0. Do we have any prior history on Ms. Cruz?
No, Judge, she has no criminal history whatsoever, and she does qualify for PTR.
Right. Ms. Cruz, I'm going to release you on pretrial release. However, until further order of the court, you're going to have to find another place to stay on a temporary basis. It will be a condition of your pretrial release that you not have contact directly or indirectly with Daenerys Peralta, and that you not return to the residence at 1454A Dorado Drive. You may return on one occasion accompanied by a law enforcement officer to pick up clothing or personal possessions that you may have at that address. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Now, yes, State?
And Robert Hughes on behalf of the state. Just for the record, the state objects to pretrial release.
Fair enough. Ms. Cruz, the court, the judge that's handling your case might at some point allow contact and return, but at this point, until that happens, you have to stay away, you have to have no contact. And even if Ms. Peralta attempts to contact you, you cannot allow that to occur, otherwise you could wind up sitting in jail without bond until the case is resolved. All right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Cruz on?
You need a minute? Okay. All right, Samantha Cusson.
Good morning.
Morning, state your name, please.
Samantha Kusan.
Ms. Cusson, you arrested on a warrant for violation of probation on a charge of driving while under the influence. Your bond is set at 0. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Thank you.
Your Honor, does the court have the basis of the violation?
I don't. I can maybe pull it up on Benchmark. This is, let's see, I'm sorry, yeah. It's,
2018 CT 2327.
okay, yes, it's alleged that Ms. Cusson failed to report to probation for the months of December of 2018, in January and February of 2019. It's alleged that she failed to pay the cost supervision as ordered, failed to pay the fines, court costs as ordered, failed to complete community service hours as ordered, and failed to enter complete DUI counterattack school as ordered, and failed to attend the Victims Awareness Program as ordered. So the bond's going to remain at 0.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Tyler Gill. State your name, sir.
Tyler Gill.
Mr. Gill, you're arrested on a charge of battery. Your bond was set at 0. Do we have prior history on Mr. Gill?
Judge, he has history from 2011 to 2016, fraud, grand theft auto, petty theft, battery, aggravated assault, a couple VOPs. His last conviction was in 2016.
All right. Mr.
We were
Gill,
unable to contact the victim.
thank you. Mr. Gill, I'm going to set bond in your case the amount of $1,000. It will be further conditioned upon supervision by pretrial release. If you post bond, you are not to have contact directly or indirectly with Crystal Lynn Middleton. You will not return to the area of 1614 Shepherd Lane while on pretrial release. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Thank you.
Mr. Gill does not qualify, Your Honor, for whatever reason, I don't know.
Oh, he does
Does the
not
court have an
qualify?
affidavit on Mr. Gill? He's indicated he makes no income, but the notes I have from social services indicate that he doesn't qualify.
For public defender?
Yes, Your Honor.
Since he is in custody, I will temporarily appoint the office of the public defender. Mr. Gill,
Thank you, Your Honor.
at your arraignment, you'll have to reapply. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Kevin Hinault?
Your Honor, may he return one time to retrieve any necessary belongings,
I
Mr.
don't-
Gill?
That's not listed as his address, but yes, I'll allow him to return one time accompanied by law enforcement to pick up clothing or personal possessions. State your name, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Kevin Hinault.
Okay, Mr. Hinault, you're arrested on a warrant for violation of probation on driving with a suspended license as a subsequent offender. Your bond was set at 0. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Tamara Jackson?
Judge, he bonded.
No, it's Ms.
Okay.
Jackson he's calling first. Oh, did he?
All right.
So Daniel Jackson has bonded, Your Honor. I believe the court has another, you have a Miss Jackson as well on your
Yes.
list?
I have Tamara Jackson.
Yes.
There she is. Morning, state your name, please.
Good morning, Tamara Jackson.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Jackson,
That's okay.
Ms. Jackson, you arrested for driving while license suspended as a second or subsequent offender. Based on the affidavit, I find probable cause for driving while license suspended only. So your bond was set at $2,500. I'm going to reduce that to $500. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you.
Your Honor, it's the state attorney's office to, policy to request or advocate for ROR in this case. We would ask that, based on that policy, Ms. Jackson be released of her own recognizance.
It looks like she had just recently been released, so,
Your Honor, I'm not familiar with the defendant's history.
okay. Madam Pretrial Release Officer, do you have recent history for Ms. Jackson?
Yes, Judge. Yes, Judge. She has history from 2009 to 2017 stemming from petty theft, possession of cannabis, Duellis in 2016, which she was adjudicated guilty, grand theft, fleeing and eluding, fraud, and petty theft.
All right,
Last conviction was in 2017.
I'm not going to release her, but the bond is set at $500. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Sorry. It's 322.34, I'm not sure which sub, friend one, I believe,
You found PC
The next
for driving
one's a
while licensed.
reset, I think, right?
suspended,
I
yeah.
don't know why.
All right, Kevin Jones?
Your Honor, Mr. Jones is a refusal.
Okay. All right, well, we'll reset him to tomorrow, see if he's in a better mood. Jaheim Kendricks? State your name, please.
Jaheim Jaleel Kendricks.
Okay. Mr. Kendricks, you arrested for possession of 20 grams or less of cannabis and resisting an officer without violence. Your bond was set at $500 as to each count. Do we have any prior history?
Judge, he has juvenile history, grand theft, burglary, which was an arrest warrant, burglary, which was dismissed, petty theft, and grand theft of a firearm, that was dismissed. It looks as though the last conviction was in 2017. And he
Okay.
meets the criteria for
All right.
TR.
Mr. Kendricks, I'm going to release you on pretrial release. That will be conditioned upon drug offender conditions, so you'll be tested, so make sure you stay away from any bad habits you may have. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judge, just for clarification, the only condition would be random drug testing?
Yeah, that's the only condition the court's, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the only condition we ordered, right, for that?
Right. Christopher Cullenberg.
Morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, state your name.
Christopher Kohlenberg.
Ms. Kuhlenberg, you arrested on 3 counts of battery, 1 count of disorderly intoxication. Your bond is set at $500 on each of the battery counts, $150 for the disorderly intoxication. I'm going to leave the bonds as set at this time. It will be a condition of your bond, should you post bond, that you not return to the area of the Regal Cinema at 3232 North John Young Parkway in Kissimmee. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Thank you.
Your Honor, the state would also ask that there be no contact with any of the victims as well.
Well, that's a statutory requirement. Of course, Mr. Kuhlenberg, it's a condition of bond that you not have contact with any of the victims. Thank you.
Judge, that's with PTR?
No, that's just straight bond with just a condition of his bond that he not return or have contact.
Thank you.
Thank you. Arturo Leon Paredes.
Mr. Leon Paredes needs the services of the Spanish interpreter, Your Honor.
All right. Is our interpreter online?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. State your name, please.
Señor, diga su nombre, por favor.
Arturo León Paredes.
Arturo León Paredes.
Mr. Leon Paredes, you arrested on a charge of assault.
Señor León Paredes, a usted le detuvieron por una acusación de intimidación.
Your bond was set at 0.
Sí.
A usted se le fijó prisión preventiva.
Based on this affidavit, the court does not find probable cause. I'm going to give the state 24 hours to seek an amended affidavit or to file an amended affidavit.
Basado en el presente affidavit, el juez determina que no existe indicio de criminalidad, por lo que va a conceder 24 horas a la Fiscalía para que radique un affidavit modificado.
In the meantime, I'm going to find that you are entitled to a bond, and I will set bond in the amount of $2,500.
Mientras ellos hacen eso, determino que usted tiene derecho a que se le fije fianza y fijaré su fianza en cantidad de $2,500.
That will be conditioned upon supervision by pretrial release.
Además, se impondrá como condición que a usted le supervise el programa de la libertad provisional.
It will be conditioned upon you not having any contact directly or indirectly with Ms. Oyama Rodriguez.
Otra condición que se le impondrá será la prohibición de todo tipo de contacto, ya sea directo o indirecto, con la señora Oyama Rodríguez.
You will not be allowed to return to the residence at 811 Haston Place in Kissimmee.
A usted se le prohíbe regresar a la residencia del 811 Aston Place en Kissimmee.
You may return on one occasion accompanied by a law enforcement officer to pick up clothing or personal possessions you need from the residence.
Se le permitirá regresar una única vez acompañado por las autoridades para que recupere cualquier tipo de pertenencia, ropa que tenga ahí en esa residencia.
You will not possess any weapons or firearms.
Y se le prohíbe la tenencia de armas en general o de armas de fuego.
And again, the case will be reset to tomorrow for a further finding of probable cause.
And Your Honor, if this may ask, what is, as to what element was the court not finding probable cause?
Imminent threat.
Understood, Your Honor.
Y una vez más le digo, se fija la audiencia nuevamente para mañana para que la Fiscalía pueda complementar el affidavit. El fiscal ha preguntado con respecto a qué elemento no se ha determinado el indicio de criminalidad y la respuesta del juez ha sido con respecto a la amenaza inminente.
The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you, sir.
Señor, se designa a la oficina del Defensor Público para que le represente.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Chandra Paul Madden.
Sí, ya te dijo que sí. Mr. Madden?
Chandra Paul Madden. Morning, sir. State your name.
Morning, Your Honor. Shana Paul Madden.
Mr. Madden, you're arrested on a charge of petty theft of $100 or more. Your bond is set at $1,000. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you, sir. Thank you.
Judge,
Honor.
he has no criminal history,
These-
and he does qualify for PTR.
And you're going to supervise him in Jamaica, where he resides?
That's a negative, sir, sorry.
Okay. Bond will remain at $1,000. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, so it's 100 to Osman.
Daniel
Mr.
McCray?
Mr. McCray?
Daniel McCray.
He's approaching, Your Honor.
Yeah, I see, thank you.
And he has private counsel.
Okay, very well. State your name, please.
Daniel McCray.
Mr. McCray, you're arrested on a charge of battery. Your bond was set at 0. And it looks like he's presently on probation for possession of methamphetamine.
Yes, Judge. Case number 2018-CF3318.
Right. Mr. McCray, as to the new charge, I'm going to set bond in the amount of $1,000. That would be conditioned upon supervision by pretrial release. If you do post bond, it will be a condition that you not return to the area of 6325 Whippoorwill Lane in St. Cloud. It'll further be conditioned upon you not having contact directly or indirectly with Audrey Bird. You will not possess or consume any alcoholic beverages or controlled substance without a valid prescription. You may return to the residence on one occasion accompanied by a law enforcement officer to retrieve any personal possessions or clothing you may need from the residence. Based on this arrest, I find probable cause that you willfully violated your probation in case 18 CF 3318 on the charge of possession of methamphetamine, and you'll be held without bond pending further order of the court in that case. Thank you. Do you know who your lawyer is, sir? Do you know who your lawyer is?
Yeah.
I still don't hear you.
Do you know who your lawyer is?
Oh, Juan Dorica.
Okay, very well, thank you.
Juan,
Juan Gallardo, okay, thank you. Are you all having a hard time hearing at that end? Are you having
We
a hard time hearing?
turned it up, so we'll see if it'll get...
Okay,
We turned it up, Judge.
thank you. William Messick.
Mr. Messick is a refusal, Your Honor.
He's behind you.
Oh.
Bless you.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Messick. State your name, please.
William Messig.
Mr. Messick, you were arrested on a charge of petty theft. Your bond was set at $500. It appears that you were out on pretrial release in case 2019 MM 989 on a charge of petty theft. And this arrest violates the pretrial release conditions in that case. So at this time, you'll be held without bond, pending further order of the court. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. I do note, Madam Public Defender, that the pretrial release in the other case was with mental health conditions, so the county court judge may reconsider conditions of release. I'm not going to set them today, but you might let your colleagues know
Okay.
they might want to set a
Thank you,
hearing
Your
as soon as
Honor.
they can. Thank you. Rafael Pedroza Morales.
Mr. Pedroza Morales requires the services of the Spanish interpreter, Your Honor.
Okay,
And defense also has a probable cause challenge in this case.
okay, thank you. State your name, please.
Señoría, su nombre,
Rafael
por favor.
Pedrosa Morales.
Rafael Pedrosa Morales.
Okay. Mr. Pedroza Morales, you were arrested on a charge of trespass after warning.
Señor Pedrosa Morales, a usted le detuvieron por una acusación de entrada ilícita luego de haber sido apercibido.
Your bond is set at $250.
Se le ha fijado fianza en cantidad de $200.
There's no indication, Your Honor, in the arrest report that Mr. Pedroza Morales was on the property. Says that there was a sworn statement received, but the content of that statement or what was said or any indication that
Right.
he was on the property has not been made.
Well, I don't think it's very well articulated. I agree with that. The officer says that he responded to the 7-Eleven at 4015 West Vine Street, and upon arrival, he met with a Hispanic male, Rafael Morales Pedroza. And the court finds a fair reading of that does provide probable cause that he met the Hispanic male, Rafael Pedroza, Morales Pedroza, at the 7-Eleven. And then there is evidence that he was warned not to return. So I will find probable cause over objection. The bond is set at $250. Public Defender's Office is appointed.
Your Honor, it's the state
El
attorney's
argumento de-
policy.
I'm sorry?
I apologize,
Go ahead,
Your
I'm
Honor.
sorry, Madam
If
Clerk.
the interpreter. El argumento del abogado ha sido el siguiente. No existe ninguna indicación en el affidavit de detención que indique que él se haya encontrado exactamente en la propiedad, y aunque se habla de una declaración juramentada, no se dice exactamente quién la hizo, cuándo, ni qué es lo que consta ahí. El argumento del juez ha sido el siguiente. Estoy de acuerdo con usted en que el documento no está explicado de la manera más clara. El agente de la policía dijo que llegó al 7-Eleven en la West Pine, que hizo contacto luego de llegar con un hombre hispano, el señor Rafael Pedroso. El juez ha determinado que existe indicio de criminalidad, pues se logra establecer que la agente de la policía se entrevistó con el hombre hispano en el 7-Eleven y que existe prueba de que se le había percibido que no podía estar ahí. Por tanto, a pesar de la objeción, se determina que existe indicio de criminalidad y se fija la fianza en cantidad de $250.
All right.
And Your Honor, we would request ROR on trespass charges. It's the state attorney's policy typically to have the defendant released of their own recognizance.
Su señoría, solicitamos que se le ponga en libertad bajo caución juratoria. Es normalmente la manera de proceder de la Fiscalía Estatal cuando ocurren este tipo de casos.
Your Honor, the state's not familiar with this defendant's history, so we just asked what his history
Pretrial release have any prior history on Mr. Pedroza Morales?
I'm sorry, that's my fault, Your Honor.
From 2009 to 2018, a DUI, possession of cocaine, and possession of drug paraphernalia, which he was convicted in 2015. He also has a trespassing, which was a withhold, and his last was passaging forge, which was no pros. He meets the criteria for PTR as well, Judge.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would not object to PTR in this case.
I'll deny the request for ROR, but I'll release Mr. Pedroza Morales on pretrial release, and it will be conditioned upon him not returning to the 7-Eleven at 4015 West Vine Street.
Thank you, Your Honor.
La Fiscalía no tiene
If the
el
interpreter
historial.
could-
No. La Fiscalía no tiene el historial con los antecedentes de él. Por favor, la libertad vigilada tiene algún tipo de historial. Sí, de 2009 a 2018 él tiene cargos por conducir bajo los efectos, por tenencia de cocaína, por tenencia de minículos de droga, por el cual se emitió fallo de culpabilidad en 2015. Tiene cargos por entrada ilícita que terminaron siendo fallo de culpabilidad en suspensión y tiene cargos desestimados por emitir documentos falsos. Se le aprueba además la participación del programa de la libertad provisional. La Fiscalía no tiene objeción a que él se le integre a ese programa. El juez ha determinado que no aprobará la libertad bajo palabra, pero sí aprobará que él sea puesto en libertad a través del programa de la libertad provisional. En ese caso se le prohíbe regresar al 7-Eleven en la 4015 West Pine, donde ocurrió el incidente.
Thank you. All right, Hazel Ramirez.
Te puedes sentar. Ms. Ramirez bonded, Your Honor.
All right. William Reyes.
Ms. Reyes? Mr. Reyes?
William Reyes.
Judge, can we put him to the last?
All right. Victor Manuel Rodriguez.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Morning, state your name, please.
Victor Manuel Rodriguez.
All right, Mr. Rodriguez, you arrested for driving while license suspended and no valid registration. Your bond was set at $500 on the suspended license charge and $250 on the registration charge. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you.
Judge?
Yes.
He has, I'm sorry, Judge. Mr. Rodriguez, the last thing, he has no convictions whatsoever in the state of Florida or at all. The only thing that I found was in Pennsylvania, but that was in '91. He meets the criteria for PTR.
Your Honor, we'd actually request ROR, not PTR, because on driving while license suspended and no registration cases, it's typically the state's policy to advocate for ROR.
I'll release him on pretrial release. Thank you.
You're gonna get out, too. It's fine.
Hakeem Russell. Good morning, Mr. Russell. State your name, please.
Akeem Russell.
Mr. Russell, you arrested on a charge of petty theft of $100 or more. Since you reside out of the country, your bond is set at $1,000. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you, sir. Thank you.
Your Honor, I'm not sure if the court wants to appoint regional conflict counsel, because previously
Well,
this morning, the
if-
court appointed the,
If you're ready to move to withdraw, I will do that.
can we do that this morning? I just don't want
Yeah,
him
if
to be
you,
without
if you want
counsel.
to, if you want to orally move to withdraw, that's fine. I just have to go through the process of appointing the Public Defender's Office first, and then if you withdraw, I'll appoint.
Okay.
So are you moving to withdraw?
Yes, Your Honor, on the basis of being appointed to Mr. Madden previously this morning, the Public Defender's Office would orally move to withdraw from Mr. Russell's case.
Fair enough. I'll grant the PD's oral motion to withdraw. I will appoint the Office of Regional Conflict Counsel to represent Mr. Russell. Mr. Russell, someone from the Regional Conflict Counsel's office should be in touch with you shortly. If you do post bond, you need to make arrangements to meet with someone from that office as soon as possible so they can start working on your case. All right, thank you. Cuevas Shelton.
Your Honor, the defense would waive the reading of the charges in this case.
All right. State your name, sir.
Quavis Shelton.
Ms. Shelton, you arrested on 3 counts. Your bond was set at 0 on count 1 and $500 each on counts 2 and 3. And does pretrial release have any prior criminal history?
Judge, he's currently out on bond in Miami-Dade, resisting officer without violence in case number 19MM104455. Also, he has extensive history from juvenile all the way up to 2019, which he's currently out on bond for battery, misuse 911, swindle, hired a lease to fraud, attempted robbery, no valid, Dwillis, resisting without violence, simple assault, grand theft auto,
All right, thank you.
and the last conviction was in 2018, Judge.
And does count 1 qualify for PTR as a condition of bond?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. Mr. Shelton, I'm going to set bond in count 1 in the amount of $2,500. The bonds remain at $500 each for counts 2 and 3, so your total bond is $3,500. Since you're out on bond in a case in Miami, the court's not going to take any action on that case, but be aware that if you do post bond in this case, the judge in Miami could revoke your bond based on this new arrest. I don't know whether that would happen or not. The bond will be conditioned upon supervision by pretrial release. It'll be a condition that you not have any contact directly or indirectly with Adriana Williams. You will not return to the area of the Motel 6 at 5731 West Highway 192 in Kissimmee while on pretrial release. You may return on one occasion accompanied by a law enforcement officer to retrieve any items of personal property that you have at that address. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Thank you.
Judge, just for clarification, is he PTR on all 3 counts or
Yes,
just
all
count
3
1?
counts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thomas Sykes. State your name, please.
Thomas Sykes.
Mr. Sykes, you were arrested on a charge of trespass after warning. Your bond was set at $250. Does pretrial release have any recent history on Mr. Sykes?
Judge, he only has 1 prior. It was intimidation, which was dropped, and that's in 2014. No
All right.
convictions, and he meets the criteria for PTR.
All right. And the defense is asking for ROR, I presume?
We are, Your Honor,
Okay.
on the basis of the state attorney policy, and Mr. Sykes would also like the court to know that he's recently obtained a job, so we would just like the court to know that it's important to him to be released because that contributes to
Well, he'll be
some of the
released either
problems he's
way,
been
but,
having.
all right, Mr. Sykes, based on the lack of history, I'm going to release you on your recognizance. But that is conditioned upon you not returning to the St. Cloud Library pending further order of the court or resolution of this case. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Walter Smith. Good morning, Mr. Smith.
Good morning, Your Honor.
State your name, please.
Walter Smith.
Okay, haven't seen you in a little while. Ms. Smith, you arrested for possession of drug paraphernalia. Do we have any recent history on Mr. Smith the last 3 years or so?
Yes, Judge. It looks as though possession of cocaine, possession of paraphernalia, the last adjudication, it was no pause, Judge, just by the way. Also, no valid and possession of paraphernalia, which was adjudicated in 2017. Similar charges, but the same.
Okay.
Your Honor, notwithstanding that
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Notwithstanding that history, the defense would request ROR. The possession or use of drug paraphernalia is one of the charges that the state attorneys typically advocate for ROR on.
Okay, well, are you advocating for ROR?
No, Your Honor, but the state would not object to pretrial release with random urinalysis.
Okay. Well, the state's not advocating for ROR. So,
Thank you, Your Honor.
I will release Mr. Smith on pretrial release. That will be with drug offender conditions and random drug testing. So, Mr. Smith, you need to avoid any bad habits in the near future anyway.
Yes, sir.
The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice day, sir.
Sammy Strotter?
Judge, just to be advised, Mr. Strotter already currently bonded on 2 of the counts. He's only going to be
Okay.
seen on the aggravated
Assault with aggravated,
Count
assault
one.
with the firearm. Okay. State your name, sir.
Yes.
Sammy Schroeder.
All right, Mr. Strotter, you arrested for aggravated assault with a knife, aggravated assault with a firearm, and aggravated assault with a motor vehicle. I'm informed that you've already posted bond on the aggravated assault with the knife and aggravated assault with the motor vehicle. Do we have any prior history, Mr. Strotter?
Judge, it was 20 years ago, assigned to
Okay.
commit possession of cocaine, and he has no conviction since then.
All right, well, this seems like a pretty highly contested set of circumstances here. I'm going to set bond on the aggravated assault with the firearm in the amount of $2,500. Ms. Strotter, if you post bond, that will be conditioned, of course, on you not having contact directly or indirectly with Dilbert Pleasant until this case is resolved or until further order of the court. You're not to possess any weapons or firearms of any kind. All right.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a lawyer, or are you asking for court-appointed counsel?
I'll get one when I get out. I'm going to get one when I get out.
Okay, very well. Thank you, sir.
He's going to
I'm
obtain
going to
private
obtain
counsel.
one when I get out.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Andrew Watson. State your name, sir.
Good morning, Andrew Watson.
Mr. Watson, you arrested for burglary of an occupied structure and grand theft. Your bond is set at $5,000 on the burglary charge, $500 on the grand theft charge. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Renardo Wisdom.
Is the other to make the case.
Morning, sir. State your name.
Ronaldo Wisdom.
Mr. Wisdom, you arrested on a charge of petty theft of $100 or more. Your bond was set at $1,000 due to your residence out of the country. The court will initially appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent you in this case. Do you have a conflict, Madam Public Defender?
Yes, Your Honor. Is there someone besides RCC the court would be able to appoint this morning, or
I
no?
can't do it this morning. I can appoint RCC this morning, and then they need to file a conflict before Jack will pay.
Before we get to that point?
yeah.
Okay.
So, but I can at least get to that second stage if you're moving to withdraw.
No, Your Honor, we will we'll hold off for now.
Okay. So Public Defender's Office.
My concern is that he'll get stuck in jail, so.
Okay. Public Defender's Office is appointed at this time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Stephanie Wombles.
She's a medical refusal, Your Honor, so if we could just reset
We'll
this.
reset her to tomorrow. Kentriel Woodside. Kentriel Woodside.
How you doing, Judge Morgan?
Good morning, Mr. Woodside. Good to see you. State your name, please.
Kentrell Woodside.
Okay, Mr. Woodside, you arrested for violations of probation and case 16 CF 373 on a charge, 2 counts of petty theft as a third or subsequent offender. And for violation of probation, case 16 CF 3356 on charge of, or 2 counts of resisting an officer with violence and 2 counts of battering a law enforcement officer and 2 counts of possession of cocaine. Your bond is set at 0. It's going to remain at 0 at this time. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Radamas Arzon.
Your Honor, Mr. Arzon refused. However, he qualifies for the public defender, and if the court appoints the public defender, I don't
All
see
right.
any, we can waive his appearance at initial arraignments.
That's fine. He's previously refused, so I'll accept his refusal as a waiver in any event. The Public Defender's Office be appointed to represent him. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
On Mr. Woodside, did you arrest him?
2.
Okay, thank you.
We were just appointed in waiving.
Scott Farrell. Is he still in the hospital? Oh, there he is.
No,
Okay.
Judge.
All right. State your name, sir.
Scott Lee Farrell.
Mr. Farrell, you're arrested on a charge of driving while under the influence. You have a bond of $500. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you, sir.
Judge,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell, I'm sorry, Judge. Mr. Farrell has no convictions, and the last arrest was around 20 years ago,
All right.
and he meets the criteria for PTR.
All right. Mr. Farrell, I'll release you on pretrial release. It'll be conditioned upon you not possessing or consuming any alcoholic beverages at all or any controlled substance without a valid prescription. You will not go to any bars or any other places. Primary source of income is derived from the sale of alcoholic beverages while on pretrial release. And you will not operate or be in actual physical control of a motor vehicle unless you have a valid license. Thank you.
Your Honor, if we could return to Mr. Arzon briefly, can we get a bond amounts on his charges?
Yeah, I'll set, on Mr. Arzon's cases, I'll set bond in the amount of $1,000 on each count.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judge, it
Yes.
was this same defendant, Mr. Arzon. He's currently out on a variety of cases.
Right, and the ones
I
that,
don't know,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
if you want, I didn't know if you wanted to address those.
Yeah, I'll be revoking his bond on the ones that he was on, had the conditions of no contact. I was just trying to avoid confusing the clerk, but what case numbers do you have?
Give me 1 second, Judge, my apologies.
All right.
Okay. Judge, my mistake, he's actually in custody on all those, so
Okay, well then
we're
I
good.
won't take action. The bond's set at $1,000 on each of these. Thank you. Eleazar Vasquez Diaz.
Yeah, on each one.
Eleazar
Diaz.
Vasquez Diaz.
Do you all know where Vasquez Diaz is? Vasquez Diaz?
I thought we had addressed him.
He's
I'm sorry.
he's a refusal, Your Honor.
All right, well, Mr. Vasquez Diaz will continue to be held without bond if he's decided not to join us. I find he's waived his right to initial appearance. The Public Defender's Office will be appointed to represent him.
And Your Honor, if we could go back to Mr. Reyes, he's here now.
Well, that's our last person, so William Reyes. State your name, sir.
William Reyes?
Mr. Reyes, you were arrested on charge of battery. Your bond was set at 0. Do we have any information on Mr. Reyes?
Yes, Judge. We actually did get to speak with the victim. The victim requests contact but does not want the defendant to return home. Mr. Reyes also does not have any criminal history whatsoever, and he does qualify for the PTR.
Mr. Reyes, I'm going to release you on pretrial release. You're 40 years old, and it's time to find another place to stay other than your dad's house, though. It will be conditioned upon you not returning to 1047 Tourmaline Drive in Kissimmee. You may do so on one occasion accompanied by a law enforcement officer to pick up any clothing or personal possessions you have at that address. You need to find another place to live. I will urge you have no hostile contact with William Reyes Sr. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Thank you.
And just for the record, Your Honor, the state objects to
And
PTR.
the court notes the objection to the statement. Thank you.
Thank
All
you, Your
right.
Honor.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Got some more stuff, yeah.
You have Spanish and then move up.
All right, as soon as we're ready, we will start with our Spanish language cases. So,
Maybe,
are we ready? We ready? Okay. So we'll address our Spanish cases. I have Alejandro Rodriguez as the first case. Can we get them? All right, state your name, sir.
Señor, diga su nombre.
¿Cómo?
Diga su nombre, señor.
Okay.
Try one more time.
Alejandro Rodríguez.
Alejandro Rodriguez.
Mr. Rodriguez, you arrested on charges of possession of methamphetamine and possession of drug paraphernalia. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Your bond is set at $1,000 on the possession of methamphetamine and $100 on the possession of drug paraphernalia. It appears that there is no prior criminal history. That being the case, I'm going to release you on pretrial release. It will be conditioned upon drug testing at least weekly, and you'll be informed of your next court date. All right, thank you.
Straight pretrial release or randomly waived, right?
Gracias a usted.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we have Mr. Dominguez Mendez. State your name, please.
Joel Dominguez Mendez.
Joel Dominguez Mendez.
Mr. Dominguez Mendez, you arrested for driving while under the influence and driving without a valid driver's license. Your bond was set at $500 on the driving while under the influence and $100 on the driving without a valid driver's license. You are presently on bond in case 18 CF 17954 for leaving the scene of a crash with injuries. Based on this new arrest, your bond in that case is hereby revoked and discharged, and you'll be held without bond in case 18 CF 17954 until further order of the court in that case. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Thank you. State your name, please.
René de Vázquez.
René de Jesus Vasquez.
Mr. De Jesus Vasquez, you were arrested for burglary of an occupied structure, resisting an officer without violence, and possession of alcohol on a street or sidewalk. The court finds probable cause for trespass as to the one count only, resisting, and does find probable cause as to resisting officer without violence and possession of alcohol. Your bond is set at $500 on the trespass charge, $100 on resisting, and $100 on possession of alcohol. You've also been arrested, however, for a violation of probation, for your probation in Hillsborough County on charge of organized fraud, and you're being held without bond on that charge at this time. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you, sir. Thank you.
The next case is Arabic.
Sorry?
The next case is Arabic, you have to call it.
Okay, the language line, okay. All right, you want to do that at the end, or you want to do it now?
I can try to call it while we get through the docket. If not,
Okay, why don't you?
I'll call now.
Okay. So we're going to have to pass Mr. Basanda while we get the Arabic interpreter online. And this is Ms. Basanda. Do you need the Arabic interpreter as well?
No, no, sir, I'm fine.
Okay. Well, apparently Mr. Basanda requires the Arabic interpreter, so we're going to pass the case for a few minutes. We'll call it back when
Sure, no
when
problem.
we get the interpreter online. Thank you. All right, state your name, sir. I'm sorry?
And Darrell Dewey Brown Jr.
Okay. Mr. Brown, you were arrested for introduction of contraband into a county detention facility. Your bond on this charge is set at $1,000. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you, sir. Thank you.
Your Honor, I apologize for interrupting. May the Spanish interpreter be excused?
That's, yes, I believe that's all the Spanish language cases we have. Is that correct? Thank you, ma'am.
You're very welcome, Your Honor. Have a good afternoon.
You too. And let me just wait a moment for our clerk. You ready to go? Okay. State your name, sir.
Michael Wetzel.
All right, Mr. Wetzel, you arrested for being in City Park after hours. Your bond was set at $250.
Your Honor, the state does have an offer in this case to resolve. The
Okay.
offer at this time would be a credit time served.
I'm sorry?
Credit time served, Your Honor.
Your Honor, he's wondering that if he doesn't accept the offer, if he would, be able to be ROR'd. I would just argue for ROR based on the nature of the offense and the fact that he was
Right, why doesn't he
sleeping.
qualify for
Sleeping's not existing.
pretrial release? Okay.
Didn't say anything about sleeping, this trespassing was a charge.
Since he wasn't interviewed, I don't really have enough information. I will leave the bond at $250, but authorize pretrial release if he does qualify. So you need to be interviewed by pretrial release, Mr. Wetzel, and they'll, if you do qualify, then you'll be released on pretrial release, and you can address the case then with the court. So, thank you.
So CCG, our pretrial release.
Yes.
The Arabic interpreter is on the line,
Okay.
so it's gonna get off the button.
Right. that it?
Yes, she should be on.
All right, Madam Interpreter?
Yes, sir.
Very well. Can we have Mr. Wetzel step aside so we can address the other case? Mr. Wetzel, step aside, please. All right, Fayak Basanda?
Yes, sir.
All right. And Madam Clerk, if you'll proceed then with, please state your name.
رجاء قل اسمك.
My name is Faik Basanda.
Mr. Basanda, you were arrested on a charge of battery. Your bond was, go ahead.
Go ahead, sir. السيد بسندة أنت تم اتهامك بالضرب وكفالتك هي.
Your bond is presently set at 0.
وحاليا الكفالة قيمتها 0.
The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you in this case.
ودائرة المحامي العام سوف يقومون بتمثيلك في هذه القضية.
And before we proceed further, I see the alleged victim is present, so I will hear what she has to say.
وطبعا قبل أن أستمر بالإجراءات أرى أن الضحية الموجودة هنا فسوف أسمع ماذا تقول.
So, Ms. Basanda, if you'll raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
السيدة بسندة ممكن أن ترفع يدك اليمنى وأن تقسمي وتؤكدي بأنك سوف تقولي الحقيقة ولا شيء غير الحقيقة.
I do.
Please state your name.
Wafa
Oli.
Basanda. I'm fine, actually. I don't need any translation, so I'm fine.
I know, but she needs to
that's for
interpret
him?
for
Oh,
him.
I'm sorry.
So, Ms. Basanda, you are listed as the victim in this case. The court is considering conditions of release, and I'm interested in what thoughts you have, if any, as to what conditions of release might be appropriate.
السيدة بسندة طبعا سيكون هناك إطلاق سراح وطبعا أيضا المحكمة مهتمة بما هي يعني الأشياء التي تفكرين أو الشروط التي تفكرين بها فيما يتعلق بإطلاق السراح.
Yeah, actually, I'm not afraid from him. This is like the first time he did it, so I think he will be fine at home with us. The kids need him, and I'm not afraid again from him. So I can keep contact with him and host it at home as well.
في الحقيقة أنا لست خائفة منه وهذه أول مرة تحصل بيننا فأعتقد أنه سوف يكون على ما يرام في البيت وأيضا أستطيع أن أستمر بالاتصال معه أيضا في داخل البيت.
Ms. Wasaba, there is an indication in the police report that a similar incident happened back in March of 2019 before you all went on holiday to Egypt. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, that's actually
سيدة
happened.
بسندة في تقرير الشرطة بأن هناك حادثة مماثلة حصلت في شهر 3/2019 قبل ذهابكم إلى عطلة إلى مصر. ممكن أن تخبريني عن ذلك؟
Yeah, actually, it's similar situations, but he could control himself in that situation. So that's why I didn't report it in that time.
في الحقيقة نعم كان هناك قضية مماثلة ولكنه في تلك الحالة تمكن من السيطرة على نفسه لهذا لم أقم بالتبليغ عن هذه الحادثة.
So you are asking to have contact with him, is that correct?
Yes, please.
أنت تطلبين أن يعني تكوني مستمرة على الاتصال معه. قالت نعم.
Any questions?
أي سؤال؟
If this were to happen
You
again,
need to
would
speak in
you,
the microphone if you would, so the interpreter can hear.
would you have any problem calling 911 if this were to happen again?
هل عندك أي مشكلة في الاتصال على رقم 911 إذا حصلت هذه الحالة مرة أخرى؟
لا, I'm sorry. No, I don't have any problem to contact 911.
لا ليست عندي أي مشكلة بالاتصال على الرقم 911.
I'm so sorry, I didn't get your question correct, or?
No, you're fine.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right.
Ma'am, oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor. Ma'am, do you want your husband to return home?
Yes, please.
And-
سيدتي هل تريدين زوجك أن نرجع إلى البيت؟ قالت نعم.
And do you want to prosecute him in this matter?
هل تريدين محاكمته في هذه القضية؟
I wish not.
Thank you.
لا أتمنى ذلك.
Your Honor, may I briefly be heard as to argument before you make a ruling?
Well, let me ask a question of
Okay.
pretrial release first, and then certainly I'll listen to argument. It says he does not qualify for pretrial release. Sorry?
We can't qualify him for a pretrial.
Okay, and there's no criminal history?
No.
Okay. All right. Yes, Mr.
Hughes. Hughes, Your Honor. Robert Hughes on behalf of the state. The state would just argue for no contact in this case, given the alleged facts, the fact that this has occurred previously, according to the victim herself, to law enforcement, the fact that this occurred in the presence of their 3 children. The state would be advocating for no contact despite the victim's wishes to have contact with their husband. The state just has concerns that this may happen again, and the victim may be more concerned with protecting her children and not calling 911.
All right. Thank you.
طبعا الولاية لديها تحفظ أو قلق بخصوص الاتصال بين الزوج والزوجة، لأن الضحية لم تريد أن تقطع الاتصال مع زوجها، ولكن بأخذ النظر بالاعتبار أن هكذا حادثة مماثلة قد حصلت في السابق أمام الأطفال ال3، فالولاية لديها قلق بسبب حصول أنه يعني الولاية قلقة بخصوص حماية الأطفال إذا حصلت مثل هذه الحادثة.
All right. The court understands the state's concerns, and I believe they are well-founded, but based on Ms. Basanda's testimony here today, I'm going to release Mr. Basanda on pretrial release.
طبعا المحكمة تقدر قلق الولاية، ولكن لأن هذا القلق مبني على أسباب معقولة، ولكن المحكمة استنادا على ما قامت السيدة بساندة بإدلائه من شهادة، فسوف تقوم بإطلاق سراح السيد زوجها بسام.
Mr. Basanda, that is conditioned upon no hostile contact with Wafa Basanda.
وأيضا إطلاق السراح هذا يجب أن يكون مشروط بعدم الاتصال العدواني على السيدة بساندة.
That means absolutely no pushing, no shoving, no hitting, no grabbing against her will, and no hostile arguments.
هذا معناته أنه يجب أن لا تقوم بدفعها، أن لا تقوم بسحبها، أن لا تقوم بضرب بأي جدال عدواني معها.
If you have a dispute with Ms. Basanda while on pretrial release, you essentially need to leave the area and avoid the dispute. Otherwise, you would very well wind up sitting in jail without bail until the case is resolved.
فهذا إطلاق السراح المحكمة. إذا حصل عندك أي نزاع مع السيدة بساندة، يجب أن تتحاشى هذا النزاع وأن تترك المكان، لأنه إذا قمت بعمل أي جدال يعني عدواني معها فسوف تبقى في السجن إلى فترة ما قبل المحكمة.
Can you do that?
Yes, I do, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Interpreter.
Thank you.
Thank you for using our service. Have a good day. مع السلامة.
And
Your Honor, and the state would just note its objection for the record.
fair enough. All right. State your name, sir.
Patrick Allen, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Allen, you arrested for battery, and your bond is presently set at 0. It appears you do not qualify for court-appointed counsel. And is this Mr. Butler?
Yes, sir.
if you'll raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
State your name, please.
Kevin James Butler.
Okay, again, Mr. Butler, the court is considering conditions of release in this case. Is there any input you wish to provide to the court?
I mean, yes, I want contact with the defendant. He can come home, back to the house, but that's it.
Mr. Hughes, any questions?
What injuries did you sustain that night?
I lost 3 teeth.
Would you mind if I can see? Okay, and that was a result of this incident?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And if anything similar to this were to happen again, would you have any reservations with calling 911?
Oh, no, absolutely would again.
Okay, and do you still want to prosecute in this case?
No.
Okay.
All right. Argument state.
Well, Your Honor, what is, if I can inquire into the court's ruling as to a bond amount or as to PTR in this
Well,
case?
as to either one, I mean,
Your Honor, the state would argue that this offense may rise to the level of a felony battery. Additionally, there is an independent witness. Understanding that the victim has indicated that he no longer wishes to prosecute, the state could decide to still move forward with charges. In deciding on a bond amount, the state would ask that the court issue a bond amount that would most protect the community and ensure that the defendant in this case were to return. Additionally, of course, the state would ask that there be no contact whatsoever with the victim.
well, this was a fairly severe injury. The allegation is that the victim, Mr. Butler, was holding an electric razor, and the defendant hit his hand, I guess, and hit the razor into his mouth, and
Yes, sir.
resulted in the teeth being broken or knocked out. Mr. Allen has no prior criminal history from what appears on the information sheet. I'm going to, and I understand this may very well qualify as felony battery, which would be a more serious charge than that for which he was arrested. Based on Mr. Butler's testimony here today, I'm going to go ahead and release Mr. Allen on pretrial release over the state's objection. However, I'm going to order no contact. You're going to have to find another place to stay, at least on a temporary basis. Until further order of the court, you will not have contact with Kevin Butler, and you will not return to the area of 5085 Wellington Park Circle, Apartment D14. You may do so on one occasion, accompanied by a law enforcement officer to pick up clothing or personal possessions that you have at that address. Now, Mr. Allen, that provision can be modified by the court that will be handling your case. And it may well be once more information is obtained. But until that time, even if Mr. Butler attempts to have contact with you, you cannot allow that to occur. If it does, that would be a violation of your pretrial release. You're the one that could wind up sitting in jail with no bond pending the resolution of the case. So if you want to have contact, talk to your lawyer about that. Your lawyer can file the appropriate motion with the judge that will be handling your case, and more testimony can be received, a little more detail, and that may be considered as we go forward. But on a temporary basis, you're going to have to find another place to stay. Based on your income, you're going to have to make arrangements to hire your own attorney. All right? Thank you.
Your Honor,
Yes.
can you set a bond in the alternative? He needs an alternate address to go out on direct
Okay,
PTR.
I'll set bond amount of $1,000 in the alternative, but the bond would be conditioned upon no return and no contact. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ms. Butler. State your name, please.
Stevenson Yates.
All right, Mr. Yates, you arrested for battery. Your bond was set at 0. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you in this case. And Ms. Britton is not present.
Your Honor, could I be heard briefly as to PC?
Okay.
I don't know if this was just a typo in the affidavit, but it was unclear to me whether Mr. Yates was actually in fact the suspect or defendant, or whether it was Corey Self. The references to Mr. Yates, there was like one reference to Mr. Yates as the defendant and multiple to Corey Self as being the defendant or the one that actually made physical contact against the victim.
Well, the Corey was the way I read it, or read it, was a witness who had a video surveillance system. And it says the video displayed a black male matching description of Stevenson exit the vehicle and aggressively walk towards victim Shania. And I think it is, it read in context, a typo there. It says when Corey reaches Shania, he pushes her very aggressively and then tries to leave. Read in the total context of the affidavit, I find that is a typographical error, and it's clearly that it's Mr. Stevenson, excuse me, Mr. Yates that they're referring to. So I do find probable cause over objection. Mr. Yates, I'm going to set bond in your case. And I do note that the Ms. Britton refused to cooperate and refused to testify, although the state certainly can go forward with the charge. Mr. Yates, given the facts of this case, I'm going to set bond in the amount of $500. That bond is conditioned upon you not having contact with Ms. Britton pending further order of the court, and you not returning to the residence where Ms. Britton is residing, although you may do so on one occasion accompanied by a law enforcement officer to retrieve any clothing or personal possessions you may need from that residence. As I stated to the other gentleman, that part of the order certainly can be amended by the judge that's going to be handling your case. And with input from Ms. Britton provided, that may result in a different outcome, but you can't contact her. You can contact her through your lawyer only until further order of the court. All right? Thank you. All right, state your name.
Sheldon Oxley.
Mr. Oxley, you arrested on a charge of aggravated battery. Your bond is set at $3,500. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you, sir. Thank you. State your name, sir.
Christopher Santos.
Mr. Santos, you arrested on charges of robbery with a firearm and grand theft. Your bond is set at 0 on the robbery with a firearm, $500 on the grand theft. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you.
Your Honor, on this particular offense, I understand it's a PBL, but unless there's been some other kind of argument finding or pretrial detention motion, I think he's still entitled to a bond.
Your Honor, I looked into this yesterday after this. I'm not sure that the state is required to file a pretrial detention motion when the underlying offense is a PBL offense. I believe that the defendant is not entitled to bond when that is what the underlying offense is.
I'm going to be held without bond at this time, and
I understand. If I could just respond to kind of clear up
Sure.
for the future, so the state doesn't have to file pretrial detention on each case, but even with a punishable by life offense, to hold someone no bond, there has to be a finding that proof is evident or presumption of guilt is great. So that's the
Right,
missing.
understood. No, they can file a motion to reduce bond, and the state would be required to proof evident, presumption great for it to continue to be held no bond. All right, state your name, please. What is your name?
Rita Novielli.
Okay. Ms. Novielli, you arrested for resisting an officer with violence and criminal mischief. In one case, your bond is $1,000 on resisting, $100 on the criminal mischief. You were also arrested on a separate charge of criminal mischief with damage of more than $200. Your bond on that charge is $500. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. All right, thank you. All right, yes, sir. State your name, please.
Stephen Young.
Ms. Young, you were arrested on a capias for failure to appear on charge of possession of 20 grams or less of cannabis and possession of drug paraphernalia. Your bond is $500 on the cannabis charge, $100 on the paraphernalia charge. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you.
Your Honor, I believe this is a case where the state was going to convey an offer. Do I have that right? Thought you said time served.
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, the state would offer to resolve this case with a time-served offer.
Okay. And how does your client wish to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. He'll sign a plea form then, if that's what he wants to do. Have you read a plea form yet, Mr. Young?
Sorry, sir.
Have you read a plea form yet? Have you had a chance to sit down and read a plea form?
No, sir.
Okay, you'll need to sit down and read a plea form, and once you've done that, if you wish to enter the plea, we'll go ahead and take it. So do we have a form he can?
Bring it back.
So we'll pass the case for a few moments and readdress it. All right, state your name, please.
Helena Corfagno.
Okay, Ms. Carfagno, you were arrested on a charge of petty theft. Your bond was set at $500. And it appears she does qualify for pretrial release. I'm going to go ahead and release you on pretrial release in this case. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. It will be a condition of your pretrial release that you not return to the Lowe's store at 2800 West Sand Lake Road, pending further order of the court. All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Taylor, state your name, please.
Samuel Lamar Taylor III.
Okay, Mr. Taylor, you were arrested for possession of drug paraphernalia. Your bond is set at $500. Unfortunately, you're out on ROR in 2 cases in which you're charged with disorderly conduct. Those are cases 19MM 732 and 19MM 2771. Based on this arrest, you violated conditions of release on recognizance, so you'll be held without bond on those cases pending further order of the court. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you.
Your Honor, I understand the court's ruling. I just
Yeah.
want to point out that on one of the cases where Mr. Taylor is out on ROR, there is a conditional release order based on a competency
No, okay.
issue. So based on that, I just, for the record, I would have been asking for,
Right.
to maintain the ROR and just release him on this.
Well, it needs to be addressed quickly. State, do you have any input?
No. No,
Okay.
Your Honor.
Yeah, sorry?
There's an order in the case, I can print it out for you.
Okay.
This is the case number 2771.
Okay, so he's got a number of cases, it looks like. He's got 19 MM 426 is the one that has the conditions. Mr. Taylor, where do you live?
I'm staying off Ivy Lane right now.
Okay, do you have a place, or you just staying outdoors, or what?
Kind of like I'm in transition. My pay, he's trying to find me arrangements for a place or whatever. When I get out, the first of the month I get paid. So.
All right. I'm going to go ahead, I will do what your attorney's asking. I'm going to release you on your recognizance on the new charge. I won't take action on the other charges or the other cases. But you can't keep coming back, or else you'll wind up being a long-term resident. So you got to stay away from the drug paraphernalia and the drugs.
What?
You don't need to say anything about the facts of your case. You got to comply with all the conditions of the conditional release.
Yeah,
Right.
I was thinking about trying to join the force,
Okay, well,
become a cop.
that'd be great, but you need to take small steps to get there, and the first step is taking care of these cases by doing what you're supposed to do. All right? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Judge.
I found PC, but he's gonna be released on recognizance. And we can note that he's on conditional release in the 19 MM case and yeah. All right, state your name, sir.
Brandon Davis.
All right, Mr. Davis, you arrested for trespass after warning. Your bond is set at $500. The public defender's office is appointed to represent you, sir. Thank you.
Your Honor, it looks like, according to my paperwork, he has no history at all. I don't know if the court would consider ROR or alternatively PTR, if you can verify.
I would consider PTR if he qualifies, with the condition that he not have contact with Shakina. I don't see the last name, and not return to 624 Bethune Drive.
Can you set the bond in the
Sorry?
alternative? Can you set a bond in the alternative? We're not
Right,
able to.
the bond is set at $500, but I'll approve ROR, PTR if he qualifies. So that's in the alternative. Thank you.
Your Honor. All right, you're all set.
All right, state your name, sir.
Sebastian Lewis Martin Fernandez.
Okay, Mr. Fernandez, you were arrested on a warrant issued by Judge Whitehead in case 17 CF 16095 for violation of probation. Your bond is set at $0. The public defender's office is appointed to represent you. I know we have this report, but the VOP is for the new arrest, for this arrest, so I'm not taking action on the disorderly conduct charge, but.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you. All right, state your name, sir.
Salvage Lee Bernard Key.
Okay, Mr. Key, you arrested for a violation of probation. And your bond is set at 0. And this is yeah, he's, all right, this is a little confusing. He's arrested for, you're arrested for driving with a suspended license. You have a bond of as a third or subsequent offender, you have a bond of $2,500 on that charge.
Yes, sir.
You were also on community control, it appears, in case 19 CF 6026 on charge of resisting an officer with violence, 2 counts of battery on a law enforcement officer, fleeing or attempting to elude a law enforcement officer, possession of cocaine, possession of 20 grams or less of cannabis. And based on that new arrest, they arrested you for violation of your community control
Yes,
in
sir.
that case. So your bond set at 0 on the violation of community control. The public defender's office is appointed to represent you. All right, thank you.
Your Honor, as to the felony, Willis, I don't think there's PC for a felony in the affidavit. I think there's
let me-
PC for the misdemeanor, or for the, excuse me,
You may be correct. Let me take a look here.
misdemeanor traffic. I don't think.
Yeah,
listed-
they didn't indicate the prior, well, as offenses, so you're absolutely correct. I'll give the state 24 hours to file an amended affidavit, and,
Your Honor, the state has no objection to setting bond as
okay, I'll set bond an amount of $500 then and find probable causes to driving license suspended only on the new arrest, but unfortunately, it's still 0 bond on the VOP.
Register, I don't bond. I think, was that done in error or?
Yeah, the Adam bond.
As an error.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna just write error there.
All right, is this Mr. Young again?
Yes, sir.
And, Mr. Young, did you have a chance to read the plea form?
Yes, sir.
And do you wish to enter a plea this morning?
Just no contest.
Okay. If you'll sign the plea form.
4 days in.
4 days, okay. All right, Mr. Young, raise your right hand and be sworn. Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
State your name again.
Stephen Young.
Okay, you can put your hand down, Ms. Young. Ms. Young, as we discussed, you were arrested for possession on the capias for possession of 20 grams or less of cannabis and for possession of drug paraphernalia. Each of those charges is a misdemeanor punishable by up to 1 year in the county jail, up to 1 year probation, and/or a fine of up to $1,000. Count 1, the possession of 20 grams or less of cannabis also carries a mandatory 1 year driver's license revocation upon the entry of an adjudication of guilt. You understand?
Yes, sir.
And you indicated that you wish to enter a plea of no contest to these charges. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, the state has offered a resolution of this case, which would be 4 days in the Orange County Jail with credit for the 4 days that you've served. The court would impose court costs and public defender lien, but since you have prior offenses, the court would be entering an adjudication of guilt that would result in a 1 year driver's license revocation. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
And with that understanding, you wish to proceed with the plea?
Yes.
Good. Did you fully understand everything on this written plea form?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Do you have any questions at all about anything on the plea form?
If I were to say if I was guilty, that would be worse on me.
No, it's, the court treats a no contest plea and a plea of guilty exactly the same as far as
Okay,
imposing
yeah,
a sentence.
I just wasn't sure. I couldn't
Okay,
remember.
that's
Okay.
all right. Do you have any other questions about anything on the plea form?
So you just said my license is going to be suspended for a year?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Are you currently under the influence of any medication or other drugs or alcohol?
No, sir.
Are you thinking clearly at this time?
Yes, sir.
Did any person coerce or force you in any way to enter the plea?
No, sir.
Did anyone promise you anything other than the recommended sentence we've just discussed?
No, sir.
You've been represented, albeit briefly, by Ms. Taylor in this case. Are you satisfied with her representation of you?
Yes, sir.
Do you believe it is in your best interest to enter this plea?
Yes, sir.
You do have the right to have a jury trial in this case to determine whether the state can prove that you committed this crime. If you chose to go to trial, at the trial, you would be presumed to be innocent. You could not be found guilty unless the state proved your guilt through admissible evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, and a jury unanimously found that the state had done so. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
At the trial, you would have each of the rights as set forth on the written plea form, which would include the rights to be represented by your lawyer throughout the trial, the right to confront and cross-examine any witnesses who testified against you at the trial, the right to present witnesses and evidence in your defense at the trial, the right to have the court order any witnesses you may have to be present so you can present their testimony to the jury, the right to testify yourself at trial, as well as the right to choose not to testify. And if you chose not to testify at trial, you have the right to have the jury instructed they could not consider that decision as evidence of guilt. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
By entering a plea of no contest, you're waiving the rights that we've discussed, as well as the other rights that are written on the plea form, and there won't be a trial in your case. You're also waiving your right to appeal any matters relating to this case other than this court's jurisdiction to hear the case and the legality of the sentence imposed. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, Ms. Hughes, I don't have an arrest affidavit in this case. Can you briefly tell me what the state would be prepared to prove if the case went to trial?
I have one moment, Your Honor.
And while he's doing that, assuming that the state is able to present a factual basis, will accept your plea, making a finding that you are alert and intelligent, that you understand the nature of the charges against you, the penalties you're facing, and the rights that you're giving up by entering the plea, and further finding that your decision to enter the plea has been freely and voluntarily made. You've had the advice of competent counsel with whom you tell me you're satisfied.
Your Honor, if this state were to go to trial, or if this case were to go to trial, the state would be prepared to prove that on January 16, 2019, M. Scott employee advised that the defendant on two different occasions to solicit customers for money. Employee called 911. Law enforcement officer observed the defendant walking behind the furniture store, made a consensual encounter with the defendant who identified himself as such. The defendant was then searched and 2 bags of cannabis were found in his pocket. The bags were tested and they came back presumptive positive for THC.
All right. Based on the representation of the Assistant State Attorney, I find there's a factual basis upon which the plea can be accepted, so I'll accept the plea of no contest. Is there anything further to be said before sentence is imposed?
No, sir.
Okay. And, Mr. Young, at this time you'll be judged guilty of possession of 20 grams or less of cannabis and possession of drug paraphernalia is charged in counts 1 and 2. As to each count, you'll be sentenced to 4 days in the Orange County Jail with credit for the 4 days that you have served. You're ordered to pay court costs of $273. Does that include the 50 or where? Okay. All right. So you'll be required to pay court costs of $273. The court will reduce that amount to judgment in this case. Your driving privileges are ordered revoked for a period of 1 year. The court has no objection to you obtaining a business purposes license or other restricted driving privilege if you otherwise qualify. You have 30 days within which you can appeal. The judgment and sentence was just entered. If you wish to appeal and you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, I will appoint one to represent you. If you do not file an appeal within 30 days, you waive your right to appeal. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, sir.
Very well, thank you. All right. Get my next stack here. Okay. All right. State your name.
Howard Rejanis.
All right, Mr. Bajanis, you arrested on a warrant for violation of probation in case 16 CT 10194. Your bond is set at 0. The public defender's office is appointed to represent you, sir. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Bajanis,
Yes, sir.
I incorrectly stated your bond amount. You have a bond of $5,000, so you can post bond if you wish. Thank you. Thank you. Xavier Bradley?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Bradley, you're arrested on charges of false imprisonment and battery. Your bond is set at 0. Let me get- I'm going to set bond in your case. Based on these facts, I'll set bond amount of $1,000 on the false imprisonment, $500 on the battery. That will be conditioned, the bond will be conditioned upon you not having contact with Tremisha Crawford. And you will not return to the area of 1041 Collier Street pending further order of the court. You may do so on one occasion to pick up clothing or personal possessions you may have at that address. State that you wish to be heard.
Yes, Your Honor. Is the court finding PC as to count 1?
I am.
Your Honor, I would just inform the court that the minimum bond amount is $3,000 for that.
Well, that's not the minimum, that's the bond schedule. The court's not bound by that.
Okay.
Based on these facts, I'm setting at 1,000. Thank you.
And Your Honor, what was the bond amount as to count 2?
500.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Michael Green,
Yes, sir. Good morning.
state your name, please.
Michael Anthony Green, Jr.
Okay, Mr. Green, you arrested on charge of aggravated battery on a pregnant person. Your bond was set at 0. I'm going to set bond in the amount of $3,500. That will be conditioned upon you not having any contact pending further order of the court with Dominique Castor. You will not return to Ms. Castor's residence if that happens to be yours. You'll have to find another place to stay on a temporary basis. You may return to her residence on one occasion accompanied by a law enforcement officer to pick up clothing or personal possessions you may need from the residence. The public defender's office is appointed to represent you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Sir, I
you.
got a question. Can I ask you?
You might want to ask your attorney, but
It's just she moved away from the residence now. She's back with her ex-boyfriend, and she doesn't even want to live there. She's not
Okay.
on the lease, but
well,
I'm on the lease though.
The condition of bond is that you not return to the address where she is residing. So
Okay.
I
Yes,
will
sir.
allow you to return if she is not residing there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that'd be good. State your name. What is your name?
Jason Kyle Janasek.
All right, Mr. Janasek, you're arrested on charge of domestic battery by strangulation, battery, and criminal mischief. Ma'am, if you'll raise your right hand. Ma'am, you solemnly swear affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And what is your name?
Denise Van Beck.
Okay, Ms. Van Beck, the court is considering conditions of release in this case. You are the named victim. Is there any input you wish to provide to the court?
I'm not afraid of him when he's sober, but I just want it easiest just to let him go.
All right. Any questions by either side?
None from the state, Your Honor.
Okay.
Was the PD appointed, Your Honor?
No, I'm sorry, he does not qualify for the PD. Mr. Janasek, I'm going to be setting bond in your case. I do note that there's no prior Florida history anyway, and a couple of prior, it looks like a couple of prior DUIs in Texas. Where do you live?
In New Orleans.
All right. All right. That kind of complicates things, Mr. Janasek. I'm going to set bond amount of $2,500 for count 1, $500 for count 2, and $100 for count 3. The bond will be conditioned upon you not possessing or consuming any alcoholic beverages at all, or any controlled substance without a valid prescription. You're not to go to any bars or any other place whose primary source of income is derived from the sale of alcoholic beverages while on bond. Until further order of the court, I'm going to order no contact with Denise Van Beck. And Ms. Van Beck, you can contact the state attorney's office. The victim advocates at that office would be interested in your input. If you do want to have contact, but you are concerned about substance abuse or alcohol or so forth, you can let them know, and that can be considered as the case goes forward. Mr. Janasek, based on your income, you don't qualify for court-appointed counsel, so you need to make arrangements to hire your own lawyer. All right, thank you.
He does have possessions at my residence.
Okay, I'll allow him to return. What is your residence address? Is it the one here?
101 Eola Drive.
Okay. I will order you not return to 101 South Eola Avenue, Unit 521. You may do so on one occasion accompanied by a law enforcement officer to pick up clothing or personal possessions that you have at that address. Thank you. All right, state your name, sir. State your name, please.
David Riles.
All right, Mr. Riles, you arrested on a charge of battery on a person 65 years of age or older. And this being a domestic case, your bond was set at 0. Sir, if you'll raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do. I can't hear you.
Okay, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please tell us your name, sir. Can you hear me? Do we have any,
Yeah,
we don't have any
hearing aid.
amplification devices? Yeah. Okay.
There's no volume in here at all.
He said, tell him your name.
It's Jewett Ernest Riles.
Okay. Mr. Riles, what is your relationship to David Riles?
I'm his father.
And Mr. Riles, your son has been arrested.
I can't hear him.
Your son has been arrested.
Your son has been arrested.
I can't hear him. What did you say?
He said your son has been arrested.
Yes, sir.
And the court is considering conditions of release to set.
Then I can't hear.
The court is considering conditions of release to set. The court is considering conditions of release to set.
Considering the what?
Conditions of release to set.
I don't understand.
Do you want him out of jail or in jail?
Supposed to be in jail.
Do you want your son out of jail or in jail?
Out of jail.
Do you want to have contact with him?
I will have contact with him.
Do you want him to return to your house?
Yes.
All right, any questions?
No questions from the state, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. All right. And Mr. Riles does not qualify for
I
court-appointed
can't hear a
counsel.
damn word.
I'll tell you.
Mr. Riles, I'm going to set your bond in the amount of $1,000. It is conditioned upon no hostile contact
I can't hear.
with
I can't hear.
your father. I won't put any other conditions at this time. You need to make arrangements to hire your own lawyer, okay? Thank you. 1,000, right. All right, what is your name?
Carlos Acevedo.
All right, Mr. Acevedo, you arrested on a charge of battery. And is this, All right, ma'am, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I will.
What is your name?
First name Audrey, last name Caceres.
Okay, Ms. Caceres, the court is considering conditions of release to set in this case. Do you have any input as to that?
I just believe he made poor choices on the night of his arrest. He has been sober for some time. There is family in town from out of state, and I think because of those family members that he drank more than he was supposed to. When he came home, he just had to state his side, his version of events, and he refused to cooperate. And there was no injury on my end. It was just verbal.
All right, so do you want to have contact with him?
That is fine.
You can live with it, but is that what you want?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you want him to return home?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any questions, Steve?
No questions from the state.
All right.
The PD
All right. I'm sorry.
Is the PD appointed, Your Honor?
No, he doesn't qualify. Mr. Acevedo, I'm going to release you on pretrial release in this case. That will be conditioned upon you having no hostile contact with Audrey Caceres. There's no pushing, no shoving, no biting, no scratching, no...
Understand.
You get the point, right? No arguing. I'm also going to condition it upon you not possessing or consuming any alcoholic beverages at all,
Yes, sir.
or any controlled substances unless prescribed by a doctor. And you're not to go to any bars or any other place whose primary source of income is derived from the sale of alcoholic beverages. So if your family's still in from out of town, they're gonna have to party on their own. You can't go with them. You understand?
That's respectful, yes.
All right. You'll need to make arrangements to retain your own counsel. And Ms. Caceres, if you have, again, the state attorney's office will make a charge decision in your case. If you have information or input you want to provide to them, they will consider that, but ultimately the decision is theirs as to whether to file charges and what charges to file. But you might want to contact the victim's advocates at the state attorney's office.
Yes,
All
sir.
right? Thank you.
Your Honor, just for the record, the state would object to PTR.
Objection noted. Thank you. Come on up, sir. State your name, please. All right, Mr. Bennett, you were arrested on a charge of battery. Your bond was set at 0. I see no priors. Mr. Bennett, based on your lack of prior criminal history, I'm going to release you on pretrial release in this case. But that will be conditioned upon you not having, in order that you not have any contact with Hattie Rice until further order of the court, and that you not return to the area of her residence at, or the residence at 431 North Tampa Avenue.
I got one question.
Hold on, let me finish, and then certainly I'll answer your questions. So you need to stay at your mother's house or some other place that you can make arrangements to stay. You can return there on one occasion accompanied by a law enforcement officer to pick up any clothing or personal possessions you may have at that address. I understand that you feel that this may be a method, her method to try to get you out of the house pending your divorce. On a temporary basis, it's working. And you've got to unfortunately let it work on a temporary basis. That's all subject to change, but you have to be patient and just comply with the rules until the case is resolved. If you have a question, I'll answer it, but you might want to talk to your attorney first before addressing the court? Anything further?
Your Honor, can you set a bond in the alternative that we verify his alternate address?
Sure, I'll set bond the alternative in the amount of $500 would be conditioned upon the bond would be conditioned upon the same conditions set for pretrial release if he doesn't qualify.
Your Honor, along with the one-time return for
Yeah.
law enforcement, can he have a return with law enforcement and someone that is going to help him take his pets out of the house?
Well, that would be, I mean, yeah, he can bring someone with him and they can help him get his pets. What kind of pets are we talking about?
8 dogs.
8 dogs? Yeah, that's a lot of dogs.
So I guess we would want the order to reflect that he can return with whatever, like, supplies and individuals he needs to take the dogs.
That's fine with the court.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Yes?
And Your Honor, the state would just object to PTR based on prior felony arrests.
All right, thank you.
Your Honor, would you do bond or PTR
I
just in
did.
case?
I did.
Oh, okay, thank you. You're all set.
Right. He can, yeah, he can, we can put something on there indicating he can make arrangements to retrieve his pets in the presence of law enforcement. So, okay. State your name, please.
Michael Bostic.
All right, Mr. Bostic, you arrested on a charge of battery. Your bond is set at 0. I'm going to set bond in this case. Bond will be set in the amount of $500. It will be conditioned upon you not having contact directly or indirectly with Natasha Flowers. You will not return to 148 M.A. Board Street. In Apopka, you may do so on one occasion accompanied by a law enforcement officer to pick up clothing or personal possessions. The public defender's office is appointed to represent you. Thank you. All right, Ms. Edward. State your name, please.
Yes. Yes.
I'm sorry?
Marie Edward?
Okay, Ms. Edward, you were arrested on a charge of battery.
Yes, sir.
Your bond was set at 0. And, all right, Ms. Edward, the reason she doesn't qualify is there's no verification of,
Community ties.
okay. Ms. Edward, do you have any family in this area?
No, just my husband.
Okay, how long have you been here in Orlando?
I've been here since 2004.
It's a long time. Do you work at all?
Yes.
Where do you work?
At Wendy's.
At Wendy's?
Yes.
Yeah, and you've been there for 10 years?
Yes, sir.
Seems like there ought to be, so what community ties do we,
If she can provide us with someone that can verify her employment and provide an alternate address, she may qualify.
okay. All right, Ms. Edward, I'm going to set your bond in the amount of $500. In the alternative, if you qualify for pretrial release, I will authorize you be released on pretrial release. I'm going to order that until further order of the court, you not have contact with Francie Paul. You live with Mr. Paul and your children, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
That kind of complicates things a little bit. Do you have another place you can stay on a temporary basis?
No.
Well, if your only other choice is staying in jail, could you find another place to stay?
I'm sure he want me to come back.
Well, till further order of the court, I'm going to order no return to 1733 Americana Boulevard, apartment 24 North, or 24N, I guess. She may do so on one occasion accompanied by a law enforcement officer to retrieve clothing or personal possessions. Public Defender's Office is appointed. State your name.
Kimber Layton.
All right. And if you'll raise your right hand, ma'am.
Oh, no
You
worries.
solemnly swear affirm testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, you can bend that microphone down a little bit if you want. Just pull it down, the microphone. There you go. Tell us your name, please.
Vilma Layton.
Okay. Ms. Layton, the court is considering conditions of release in this case. Do you have input you want to provide? Is there anything you want to tell me?
Nothing, sir. No, nothing.
Do you want to have contact with Kimber Layton?
Yes.
Are you afraid of Kimber Layton?
Sometimes.
Okay, well, that's not good. State, any questions?
No questions from the state, Your Honor.
Do you want Kimber Layton to return to your home?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So why do you want this person at your home if you're afraid of him?
Well, maybe I give him a chance. We have to change the way before. Just second chance.
All right, any input, state?
Your Honor, based on the arrest affidavit, the state would advocate for no contact. However, it is up to the court's discretion, obviously.
All right. Well, I mean, this wasn't particularly aggravated. Mr. Layton, over the state's objection, based on the testimony, I'm going to release you on pretrial release. I will allow you to return to the home. You can have contact with Vilma Layton, but there can be no
Nothing.
physical,
Right.
hostile physical contact.
I understand.
If you can't get along, just get away. Otherwise, you'll be sitting in jail a long time, so, okay. Public Defender's Office is appointed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, state your name, please.
Amari Leggett.
All right. Miss, you're good. Thank you. Miss Leggett, you arrested on charge of battery. Your bond was set at 0. Ms. Leggett, I'm going to, set bond in the amount of $500. You can be able to post that bond? Yes?
Yes.
Until we have input, or unless we have input from the alleged victim, I'm going to order no contact with Wayne Crookall. You have a 3-year-old child?
Yes.
All right, I will let you return to the residence and let you have contact with Mr. Crookall, but no hostile contact. I'm only doing that because the child is there. But if you can't get along, if you got problems, if you think he's cheating on you or whatever the case might be, you can't
I'm done.
get physical. And if you're done with him, just get your child and go somewhere else or do something else. And I'll note the state's objection. Thank you. All right, Public Defender's Office is appointed. All right, state your name, sir.
Darrell Lindsay.
All right, Mr. Lindsay, you're arrested on a charge of battery. Your bond was set at 0. And where do you live?
I'm actually from the UK.
Right. And that's where Miss Carter's from?
Yeah.
All right. When are you planning on returning?
I leave a week on Monday.
And you live with Miss Carter in the UK?
No, I live with my mum.
Okay. Miss Carter live in the UK?
She lives with her aunt.
In the same city?
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Lindsay, since you're from out of the country, I'm going to, at this time, set bond the amount of $1,000. The bond will be conditioned upon no contact with Casey Carter. And you've been staying at the Coronado Springs?
It's called
Coronado Springs, is that where you were staying, or?
Frozen Inn.
Where are you staying?
Yeah,
Re-
Coronado Springs.
I think he's saying yes to that hotel.
Yes.
Okay.
Coronado.
Okay, well, I'm gonna order you, not return there, except you may do so to, one time to get your, clothing and personal belongings from that location. So you're gonna have to find another place to stay until you leave. You're gonna need to try to resolve this case. You may do that perhaps long distance, but you'll need to talk to your lawyer about that. All right? All right, thank you.
Your Honor,
Yes.
they have the same flight back.
Yeah, I assume that. I'll order no hostile contact.
Your Honor, the state would note its objection for the record.
Objection noted, thank you.
Still not returned, are you able to delete that as well?
You can delete that also.
And Your Honor, was the public defender appointed?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, state your name.
Rufus Pinckney.
Mr. Pinckney, you were arrested on charge of battery. Your bond is set at 0. Mr. Pinckney, I'm going to set your bond amount of $500. It'll be conditioned upon you not having contact with Laura Pinckney.
Yes, sir.
Now, is she living at the same house where you were?
No, sir.
All right. Very well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Come on up, state your name, sir. What is your name?
Leonard Tracker, sir.
Okay. And if you solemnly swear affirm testimony you're about to give me the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
State your name.
Jeanette Tragesser.
Okay, Ms. Tragesser, and Mr. Tragesser, you arrested for battery. Your bond is set at 0. Ms. Tragesser, is there any information you want to provide the court in this case?
My husband came down here for a conference, and the evening activities included a lot of alcohol, and he wasn't taking his medication. So when I got down here, he was at more of an agitated state, and I believe that if he was at home, this incident wouldn't have occurred, and I'm not afraid of him and would like to continue contact with him.
Okay.
And he has agreed to make some healthier decisions and make some changes.
So you all been together for 37 years?
Yes.
And so you're staying at a hotel on World Center Drive?
Well, I've checked out, so my husband needs to pick up his things, and then we're both going to return to South Carolina because we both have to work tomorrow.
Okay. Has anything like this happened in the past?
No, sir.
Are you afraid of him?
No, I'm not.
So you're wanting to have contact with him?
Yes, and we've talked several times in the last couple of days, and we have discussed him taking some time to get himself more stable and meeting with his doctor on Monday. And I do think that we have a plan in place for returning.
So is he seeing a mental health professional?
Yes, he is.
All right. Any questions, Mr. Hughes?
No questions from the state, Your Honor.
All right.
I just have one, Your Honor, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I don't, if the PD's appointed,
I don't see that you're not, so I guess that you are.
okay. Ma'am, do you want to prosecute against your husband?
You don't have to make the decision today.
I understand that, and I don't believe that. I don't believe that I do. He has a health concern, and as long as alcohol stays out of the picture and the medication comes back in, and we can get him to a point where he's stable again, then I don't have any fears of being around him.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Tragesser, I'm going to, since you reside out of state.
Your Honor, could I make a statement?
Probably shouldn't do that.
You can, but it's not probably in your best interest at this point. I'm going to set bond the amount of $1,000. The condition of bond will be that you have no hostile contact with Jeanette Tragesser. I will allow continued contact. Be a condition that you not possess or consume any alcoholic beverages at all, or any controlled substances unless prescribed for you by a licensed doctor or psychiatrist. And it'll be a further condition that you take any medication that is prescribed for you in the dosage that is prescribed.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you, Your Honor.
Okay.
A little
You're
bit hard
being, the
hearing.
bond set at $1,000 is conditioned upon no hostile contact with Jeanette Trageser. There's no pushing, no shoving, no fighting of any kind, no hostile arguments. If you can't get along, you need to divorce yourself from the situation. You need to walk away.
Yes, sir.
You're not to possess or consume any alcoholic beverages at all, or any controlled substances unless they're prescribed for you by a licensed doctor or psychiatrist. You are to take any medication that is prescribed for you in the dosage that is prescribed.
Yes, sir.
All right?
Thank you.
Stack it up so you can get smaller. State your name, sir. State your name, please.
Ennis Williams.
Okay. All right, Mr. Williams, you were arrested on a charge of battery. And we don't have Ms. Williams here. You do qualify for pretrial release, it appears. Mr. Williams, I'm going to release you on pretrial release in this case. That will be conditioned upon, until further order of the court, you not having contact with Wendy Williams. And you're going to, wait a minute, I've got the wrong report here. I'm sorry, this is Xavier Carter. Let me take that back, Mr. Williams, for just a moment. Okay. All right, thank you. I'm sorry.
I know.
All right, again, Mr. Williams, I will release you on pretrial release, but that will be conditioned upon no contact with Wendy Williams pending further order of the court.
Yes.
And you will not return to the area of 720 South Orange Blossom Trail, room 101. Sorry?
She don't live, no, that's a hotel. She was with me.
Except you
I'm
may
not telling.
return on one occasion accompanied by a law enforcement officer to pick up clothing or personal possessions.
Tell him.
The public defender's office is appointed to represent you.
Your Honor,
Yes.
can you clarify whether they stay together or not? Do they stay together?
I don't know whether they do or not.
I didn't,
Do they stay together?
oh, so, no, it's, she shouldn't be returning to that residence. I was gonna ask the court if she's vacated, can he
If she
stay
doesn't
there?
reside there, he can
Yeah.
return there.
Check off the
But,
19th.
yes. Thank you. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
No, he,
If she's still there.
if she's still there, yes.
And Your Honor, state notes its objection for the record.
Thank you.
PTR.
All right, state your name, sir.
Carter Xavier.
Mr., it's Carter Xavier, not Xavier.
Yeah,
Okay.
some people get it mixed up.
Mr. Xavier, you're arrested on a charge of battery. Your bond is set at 0. Ma'am, please raise your right hand and be sworn. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I swear.
State your name, please.
Erica Edwards.
Okay, Ms. Edwards, you've seen the process. We are discussing release conditions in this case. Is there any input you want to provide to the court?
I am not fearful of Carter when he is calm. However, the moment he gets upset, I am fearful of him. He was not under any influence, so I would simply say just anger or going from 0 to 100 quickly. So in that case, I don't want contact with him. We do have a child that we share. So whatever needs to be orchestrated for her to continue relations with him, I'm okay with. But me personally, I do not want any contact with him, none whatsoever.
Okay, and you don't reside with him, is that correct?
Well, we did.
Okay.
They came to our residence, and we have only been there a month. We haven't even paid rent for the second time.
So, but you're staying at 7413 Villas Oak Court?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's where you're living right now?
Right.
Okay. All right. All right, Mr. Ms. Carter, I will release you on pretrial release in this case. It will be conditioned upon absolutely no contact, directly or indirectly, with Erica Edwards. The only contact you may have is through your lawyer. You are not to return to the area of 7413 Villas Oak Court. You may do so on one occasion accompanied by a law enforcement officer to pick up any clothing or personal possessions you have at that address. And you'll need to make arrangements for contact and visitation for your child through your counsel at this point. You can't have contact with Ms. Edwards. Do you have family in the area?
Yes, sir.
I will allow you to have family members contact Ms. Edwards for the purpose of child visitation and child welfare only, so they can contact her on your behalf with respect to that, but that'll be it, okay? Public Defender's Office is appointed. Court notes the objection of the state to the release on pretrial release. Thank you.
Your Honor,
Yes.
excuse me, if I could just, with him getting his belongings, he has a dog, a really big dog that doesn't have any food or anything, for him to like get his dog as soon as possible.
All right. So when you come with law enforcement to get your belongings, you need to pick up your dog?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, then state your name, please.
Adriana Alcover Nazario.
Ms. Alcover Nazario.
Yes, sir.
You were arrested on charges of possession of Xanax, possession of cocaine, possession of 20 grams or less of cannabis, and possession of drug paraphernalia. Your bond is set at $1,000 on the possession of Xanax, $1,000 for possession of cocaine, $1,000 possession of more than 20 grams of cannabis, $1,500 on the paraphernalia. You're out on bond in case 19MM 1386 in Osceola County for possession of 20 grams or less of cannabis and possession of drug paraphernalia. Your bond in that case is revoked. You'll be held without bond pending further order of the court. You're also out on bond in case 19 CF 48884, charge of possession of more than 20 grams of cannabis and petty theft. Your bond in that case is also revoked. You'll be held without bond. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Thank you.
Hire an attorney or ask for the PD in these cases, because your bond got revoked. It means you're held no bond in jail.
All right, state your name, please.
Antoine Latrell Atkins.
Okay, Mr. Atkins, you arrested on charge of grand theft of a motor vehicle. Excuse me, your bond is $1,000. You are presently out on bond in case 19 CF 7-2 for grand theft of a motor vehicle and trespass on the structure or conveyance. Your bond in that case is revoked. You'll be held without bond. The public defender's office is appointed to represent you.
And Your
Thank you.
Honor, just, I understand it's purely discretionary, but on the other case where he's out on
Right.
ROR, it looks like the state still hasn't filed charges, and he has already been held for 33 days.
I'm still going to order that the ROR be revoked. Thank you. State your name, sir.
Mr. Bullard.
Mr. Bullard, you're arrested for robbery with a deadly weapon and grand theft. Your bond is set at 0.
Can't set a bond of any kind today?
You can ask, the court's going to set bond on the grand theft in the amount of $1,000. I'm going to leave it at 0 at this time on the robbery with a deadly weapon, and I understand the defense's objection to it being held no bond without a showing of proof evident presumption great or a detention hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Is there a detention hearing set for the other, Your Honor, the other robbery?
Sorry?
Is there a bond?
No, there is not a hearing set. You'll need to talk to your attorney about that.
Okay.
All right.
But there is a bond on the other one, though?
Yes, there is a
Okay,
bond on the other.
thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank
Is there
you.
any paperwork I need to take with me?
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna work on getting you a bond on the other case.
Okay.
You're entitled to one. All right?
All right. State your name, please.
Elizabeth Burrows.
Ms. Burrows, you're arrested on charge of possession of methamphetamine, possession of cocaine. Your bond is $1,000 on the methamphetamine, $150 on possession of cocaine. You're also arrested for fraudulent use of credit cards. Your bond is $1,000 on that charge. The public defender's office is appointed.
Your Honor, I see that she does qualify for pretrial release. Would the court be inclined to release her that way?
I'm not going to at this time, based on the number of priors and the number of charges and nature of charges. So,
Understand the
Thank you.
court's ruling, just I forgot to put on the record that she is a single mom and she has kids at home that she won't be able to get back to until
well,
until
she's
she postpones.
possessing, well, the ruling is the ruling, so thank you. And as to Leonard Cooper, did he postpone or? I'm sorry? Okay, so that'll be reset. And this is Ms. Daniels, I presume. State your name, please.
Sharon Daniels.
Ms. Daniels, you're arrested on charge of grand theft. You have a bond of $500. However, you were on, this is the most to appear only on petty theft, so there's no action the court will take as to that. So you have a bond of $500. Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you.
Thank you.
So just $500. You didn't revoke your other case.
All right. State your name, please.
Danielle Freeman.
All right, Ms. Freeman, you arrested for possession of methadone, possession of drug paraphernalia, and
Sorry, Your Honor, we can't hear you.
oh, I'm sorry. You were arrested for possession of methadone, possession of drug paraphernalia, and trespass on property other than a structure or conveyance. And I think that's a typo. The affidavit says methamphetamine. So the bond on the possession of methamphetamine is $1,000. The other two counts are set at $100 each. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Thank you.
Why can't I be treated for trial release? Why? I've never been arrested on charges before.
No, I
Could,
cannot.
Could PTR, I'm not sure, I don't see why she didn't qualify.
Community ties.
Okay.
What is it?
If she could verify community ties, would Your Honor consider bond or PTR in her case?
Uh,
I don't have a bond.
yeah, there are no priors I would consider bond or pretrial
Thank
release if she qualifies. Pretrial release would be a drug conditions.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Yes.
Thanks, Your Honor.
All right, state your name, sir.
Alexander Lee Glover.
Ms. Glover, you're arrested for loitering or prowling. You have a bond of $250. You are out on bond for loitering or prowling, trespass in a structure, and possession of burglary tools in case 19 CF 4070, and petty theft with 2 prior theft convictions in 19 CF 2023. Based on this arrest, your bonds in those cases will be revoked and discharged and be held without bond in those 2 cases. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you, sir. Thank you. With drug offender conditions.
So do you want drug testing?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you. I had 2 felony cases that look like. Oh, all I saw was the loitering or prowling. Oh, it's right here. That is. He also has burglary and petty theft. You are right. As to his burglary and petty theft, Mr. Glover, yeah. Thank you.
You might have to rearrange it. He's bringing Glover back in.
That'd just take a minute. He can just stand at the doorway if
She gotta let somebody.
she can't have 5 in.
Ms. Beltran, did you get that on Freeman? It's drug testing. When he says drug
All right.
offender condition.
Mr. Glover, welcome back. I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah.
I missed one of your cases. You were arrested for burglary of a conveyance and petty theft.
Nah, I ain't got no. It was just prodding and luring. That's it.
I'm not telling you you're guilty of that. I'm just telling you were arrested for that.
That's what they assumed. I was walking on the sidewalk.
Well, understood. You very well may not be guilty, but you've been arrested for that.
Okay.
Your bond on those 2 counts is $3,500 for burglary and $100 for petty theft. Public defender represents you in all your cases.
Okay, okay.
Thank you, sir. All right, state your name, please.
Sean Isaac Gutierrez, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Gutierrez, you're arrested for robbery with a firearm and grand theft. The bond on the robbery with firearm is 0. Grand theft is $500. Over objection by the defense, I'm going to leave the bond at 0 on the robbery at this time, and the 500 on the other. The public defender's office is appointed. All right, state your name, please.
Jacquees Harris.
All right, Mr. Harris, you were arrested on a warrant for burglary of a dwelling, theft of $20,000 or more, 2 counts of dealing stolen property, and providing false information to a pawnbroker. The bond is $5,000 on the burglary charge, $2,500 on each of the other 5 counts. You are presently out on bond for burglary of a dwelling, criminal mischief, and possession of burglary tools in case 17 CF 10596. And based on this, well, actually, since this is alleged to have occurred in 2017, I don't know whether you're out on bond when this offense is alleged to have occurred, so I'm going to take no action on the case in which you were presently out on bond. But that may be revoked by the court if it is determined you were out on bond when you committed the other, or allegedly committed the other offenses. So the Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. You do have a bond. The bond totals 10, 15, $17,500. Thank you. All right, state your name, sir.
Daquan Hart.
I'm sorry?
Daquan Hart.
All right, Mr. Hart, you arrested for possession of cannabis with intent to sell or deliver, in possession of more than 20 grams of cannabis. Your bond is set at total of $1,150. It looks like you qualify for pretrial release, but there's a hold for Marion County, is that?
Yeah, they may hold him up if he tries to do the pretrial release.
Good. So what's the issue in,
Up if he tries to do the pretrial release.
what's the issue in Marion County? All right. Based on that, I'm not going to grant pretrial release. Your bond is $1,150. Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, state your name, please.
Wadi Lazis.
Okay. Mr. Lysis, you arrested for driving while license suspended with 2 or more prior convictions. It appears you do not qualify for court-appointed counsel. And it does appear they've alleged a prior conviction. So your bond is set at $2,500, sir. Thank you.
I can't really give you like our paperwork, but if you come back to court and you can't afford a lawyer, you can just ask for it.
State your name, ma'am.
Tiana Mans.
Ms. Mann, you're arrested on a charge of battery on a law enforcement officer. The bond was set at $2,500. Appears there are no priors, and she may qualify if interviewed. Is that correct? Okay. Ms. Mann, based on the facts alleged here, I'm going to reduce the bond to $1,000, but I will authorize pretrial release in the alternative if you do qualify, so they will interview you. You can post a bond if you wish, or if you qualify for pretrial release, you'd be released on pretrial release. Public Defender's Office is appointed.
Pre-trial, how does that work? Because I stay in Gainesville. I was just down here for the Funk Fest.
Okay. Pretrial release should be okay with that.
It
all
depends
right.
on how you score. You would either have to come in and.
They'll have to get information from you, so,
She will interview.
yeah. All right, state your name, please.
I'm on Stewart.
Okay, did Mr. Rodriguez, Nicholas Rodriguez post bond, or? is he- Nicholas Rodriguez, did he post bond, or is? Okay, so we'll reset him. And Frank Scott? He's next on my stack. Do we know what happened? Huh?
Give them the inmate number and they can look it up.
Okay.
Inmate number is 1901. 2796.
All right, Mr. Stewart, while they're doing that, he bonded? Okay, great, thank you. Mr. Stewart, you arrested on charges of burglary of a dwelling, grand theft, and criminal mischief. Your bond was set at $15,000 on the burglary, $1,000 on grand theft, $500 on the criminal mischief charge. You are presently out on bond in case 18 CF 12132 for fleeing or attempting to elude a law enforcement officer with lights and sirens activated. Based on this new arrest, your bond in that case will be revoked and discharged. You'll be held without bond pending further order of the court. Based on your affidavit, you do not qualify for court-appointed counsel. I will provisionally appoint the Office of the Public Defender while you remain in custody, in the event that you're not able to arrange to hire a lawyer. Now, you had indicated, I think the reason you did not qualify, you indicated that you have income of $700 a week. Are you able to earn that while you're in jail? Okay, you might need to fill out an amended affidavit. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Your Honor. And just a note for the record, I do see this was a warrant arrest.
It was.
I don't have the warrant to check whether the date of offense was before he was out on
Okay.
bond.
When was he released on bond? Well, the offenses alleged to have occurred, new offenses on April 1st, 2019. So given the case number, I assume it's going to be after his release, but
Yeah.
thank you. All right, state your name, ma'am.
Courtney Strobel.
Ms. Strabo, you were arrested for attempted burglary of a conveyance and criminal mischief. Your bond was set at $1,000 on the attempted burglary, $150 on the criminal mischief. Based on the information I've been provided, you do qualify for pretrial release, so I will go ahead and grant pretrial release. Now, I will order that as a condition of pretrial release, you not return to the district apartments
Okay.
complex.
I got a question. What's an RR? Because somebody told me I could do that too.
No, you can't. That's-
Okay, I don't know. I've never
yeah.
been in trouble, so.
Right. I can see that. You'll be on pretrial release, and they'll
Okay.
explain that to you. Public Defender's Office is appointed. Thank you. And Ms.
Okay.
Tatum Simmons, did she post bond, or is she Tatum Simmons? I'm sorry.
Inmate number is 19012797.
Okay. And what about Brianna Walker?
Hello, Your Honor.
I'm sorry?
Hello,
Oh,
Your Honor.
okay. Hello. All right, state your name, please.
Brianna Lee Walker.
All right, Ms. Walker, you arrested for possession of methamphetamine. You have a bond of $1,000. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Your Honor, would the court consider doing bond or PTR if she can provide ties to qualify herself?
I don't think she qualifies
She does not qualify.
based on prior record, or, so, thank you.
So unless I mean, it's residue. I took a drug test and I think I can be negative for everything.
I'll make a note of that, just like I told
Please
you.
do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, state your name, sir.
My name is Keon O'Shea.
Williams-Flax.
All right.
Flax.
Yes, sir. Mr. Williams Flax, you were arrested, first of all, for camping in violation of county ordinance. You have a bond of $250 as to that charge. You're also arrested for possession of ecstasy and introduction of contraband into a county detention facility.
I don't understand that, sir.
Well, let me finish, and then, your bond is $1,000 on the possession of ecstasy, $150 for introduction of contraband into a county detention facility. Now, we're not here to determine whether you're guilty or not of those charges today. You may very well not be guilty.
I never did recall any of those other two events, any of those other two events happening.
Okay. Well, I don't know that they did. I'm just telling you that they've provided a sworn affidavit saying that they did. Unfortunately, you were out on bond in case 19 CF 2955, and based on these new arrests, your bond will be revoked. You'll be held without bond in that case pending further order of the court. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you. Thank you.
And Your Honor, just for the record, I'd note that for the case where he's out on ROR,
Right.
it was pursuant to a non-filing decision by the state.
Okay, and how old is that? I mean, is it still not been filed on, or can we look up 192955?
I've been calling, so I'm sure.
Notification of non-filing. So the RR was granted, he was released.
Yeah, but when was that? When was he arrested?
Your Honor, he was arrested in that case on March 1st, and it still has not been filed on.
Okay. All right, given that fact, I will take that back. I won't take action on the ROR case, and let the judge that's handling that case address it. If the state's waiting lab results and they get them and file it, the judge may revoke it, but I'm not gonna do it at this point. Thank you. All right.
I'm not gonna be able to bond out.
Introducing contraband and camping. Alright. You're all set for today. Send your lawyer out to see you, okay?
All right, last time y'all didn't.
Alright.
All right, when you state it, these are not my names. I keep putting all these extra names.
All right, sir, you can make an appointment to meet with your lawyer later.
This is not me.
I got you. I got you.
All right, state your name, please.
Hey, my name is Wiz McAmey.
Mr., is it Aim or Amy?
Amy.
Mr. Amy, you were arrested for driving with license suspended with 2 prior convictions. Your bond is set at $2,500. It appears you do not qualify for court-appointed counsel, so you need to make your own arrangements to hire a lawyer, but
Okay.
you can be released upon posting the bond. All right? Thank you.
You say I can be released
You can.
without
You
posting the
can't-
bond?
No, you can't be released upon posting the bond.
Oh,
So, okay, thank you.
All right.
State your name, sir.
Your Honor, it's Felix Fernandez.
All right, Mr., just a moment. Michelle Ventura posted bond, or? That's, here, I don't know where the inmate number is on there.
19012748.
Where are you seeing that? Where is the inmate? She bonded? Okay. Oh, it's there, okay. All right, we got it. Okay, you're Mr. Fernandez, is that
Yes,
correct? Yes, sir. Okay, Mr. Fernandez, you were arrested on a warrant or a capias for failure to appear in case 11 CT 13337. Your bond is set at 0. The Public Defender's Office is appointed to represent you.
Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
You don't have my case, Your Honor, then?
No, sir.
Oh, because I paid my full bond when I was arrested 2 months ago, the full and $2,000 bond from the DUI charge. I guess I had a warrant out, and I happily went in. At Seminole County, I was arrested, and I never got discharge papers or the paperwork sent to me with my court date, and I would not have avoided court if I already paid my full bond, which goes to my court fees, which seems to be the issue at hand. So, and I'm missing work and everything.
Right,
It's a notation here, saying defendant providing.
Yes, sir.
right, well, that's, can I see the paperwork again? I'm sorry. That's all right, thank you.
From what I've read from the warrant, it's about the arranging arrangements, which I'm assuming means payments for the court orders and the fees and everything. And I'll be happy to do so after paying the full bond amount. I know that was going
Well,
to.
I'm afraid you're gonna have to address that
Okay.
with the judge that issued it. He's indicated, bond none, no PTR, PCR, ROR. I'm not sure exactly what's going on in your case, but I think you're gonna have to work it out with the judge that issued the CAPIAs.
How soon would that be, Your Honor? Because I've already worked 2 jobs that I just acquired in the past 2
I
weeks.
can't tell you exactly when that would be. Do we know when he would be set?
So what's the right address for you?
Should be
Right.
11347 Cypress Lake.
So, Ms. Taylor can make a note to contact her colleagues that handle those cases, and they can try to get something quickly before the judge.
Yes, Your Honor, will do. It's Cypress Lake. Orlando?
Yeah. Leaf, Cypress Leaf.
Oh, Lee.
Yeah, like L-E-A-R.
Oh, okay, got it. All right, you're all set.
Right.
Okay, while they're
I'm stuck
talking,
here, though.
Mr.
Right.
Levester bonded, is that correct? It's inmate 190-12806. Okay, thank you. Okay, and next I have is not this young lady, it's Hugo Vasquez. I assume he bonded, that's 190-12791. Sorry, okay. Yes. Okay, this is Ms. Smith.
Yes, sir.
State your name, please.
Tabitha Smith.
All right, Ms. Smith, you were arrested for possession of 20 grams or less of cannabis. Your bond is set at $500. You do not qualify for court-appointed counsel, but you do qualify for pretrial release, so I will release you. You need to hire your own attorney to assist you with this, it appears. The release will be subject to random drug testing, so if you have any bad habits, you need to make sure you get rid of those, so you don't wind up back where you are. All right? Thank you.
Straight retrial.
Yeah, yes, thank you. All right, state your name, sir.
Charleston Creighton.
All right, Ms. Creighton, you arrested on a warrant for burglary of a dwelling with an assault with a weapon, burglary of a dwelling with damage of more than $1,000, burglary of an occupied structure, possession of burglary tools, possession of a weapon in the commission of a felony, grand theft of over $100,000 from a dwelling, and criminal mischief of over $100,000. The bond as set on the warrant as for the burglary with an assault is $0. Burglary with damage to a dwelling is $5,000. Burglary with dwelling is $3,500. Possession of burglary tools is $1,000. Possession of weapon and commission of felony is $1,000. The grand theft was set at $1,000 and criminal mischief at $1,000. I'm going to leave those bonds as set at this time. The public defender's office is appointed to represent you, sir. Thank you.
Your Honor, I'd just renew my previous objection as to the PBL offenses in count 1
Thank
and
you.
3.
And, thank you, the objection's noted. Well, it's no bond, so moot point, really. All right, state your name.
Eric T. Fleming.
Okay, Mr. Fleming, we addressed this yesterday, and trying to refresh my recollection as to what the issue was. Regarding pretrial detention if in,
We had 2 cases.
okay,
We set it, given
okay, this was the one that I had reset on the issue of the bonds.
Yes.
Based on the court's subsequent ruling on the bonds, I'm going to leave the bonds as said at this time. And the defense can file a motion to set bond. I won't require that that be done in initial appearance.
He has 2 cases, we were
Right.
missing 1. He has a domestic violence case that's a misdemeanor as
Right.
well.
I've got that.
No condition change, we said yesterday.
Okay, as to the battery, the domestic violence battery charge, I will set bond amount of $500, the condition upon no contact directly or indirectly with Bonnie Meyer. Okay, the public defender's office is appointed in that case. All right, the next one we have is Mary Senecal. That doesn't look like that's who we have here, so she refused yesterday. What's happened with Ms. Senecal? Inmate 190-12699. Okay, so we'll reset it again, I guess, to tomorrow. And what is your name, sir?
Lakeithan Keon McGee.
Okay, Mr. McGee, you arrested for a violation of probation. Let's see.
Yes, sir.
First, you were arrested for possession of cocaine. You have a bond of $1,000 on that charge. They also, based on that arrest, arrested you for a violation of probation on your charge of possession of a controlled substance. And they set a bond of $1,000 on the violation of probation. So since that's what they said, I'll leave it. You have bonds of $2,000. The public defender's office is appointed. All right, thank you. Go ahead.
There's a bond correction form. It came in at
Okay.
1,000, but they corrected it to nothing.
Oh, they did. All right. They caught their, Mr. McGee, not so fast. They caught their mistake. The VOP is set at 0. So that's where it is at this point. You'll have to file a motion to set bond if you want bond set in that case.
Yes,
All
Your
right. Thank you. I don't know why I overlooked that. Yeah, I know. All right, state your name.
Tony Navarro.
All right, Mr. Navarro, you're arrested for possession of cocaine and possession of drug paraphernalia. The bond is $1,000 on possession of cocaine and $500 on possession of drug paraphernalia. Based on this arrest, they arrested you for a violation of probation in case 15 CF 4283. Charge of grand theft of a motor vehicle. Your bond's set at 0 in that case. The public defender's office is appointed to represent you. Thank you, sir. All right, state your name, sir.
Glover.
I'm sorry?
Glover.
Okay, and, Mr. Nice was reset. Behavior again. All right, we'll reset him one more time, I guess. And, all right, Mr. Glover, you arrested for possession of an open container of alcohol. You have a bond of $250. This case is going to be resolved today, or?
Your Honor, at this time, the state would make an offer of 5 days Orange County Jail credit for any time the defendant currently has.
Your Honor, will the court consider releasing him on his own recognizance based on the nature of the offense here?
Yeah, I'll do that. You gonna show up in court?
Yes, sir.
Looks like he's not gone anywhere too far. Fair enough. You're released on your recognizance. Public Defender's Office is appointed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
PC was on, right?
Yes. All right, if you'll state your name, sir?
Juan Rodriguez.
Okay, and just one second, what happened with Timothy Gordon? Did he bonded? Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Rodriguez, you were arrested for possession of an open container of alcohol. You have a bond of $250. And,
Could, corrections let us know what the hold is for Broward? Oh, he bought, oh, sorry, never mind.
so what are we doing with Mr. Rodriguez? Let's go leave it at 250 at this point.
The court consider ROR? based
No,
on-
unfortunately, with his prior history, I would not.
Yeah.
Also, there's a somewhat confusing notation that he's on parole in New Jersey for life, third degree. So I don't know. I'm not sure that a open container of alcohol would be used as a reason to violate that parole, but I don't know that it wouldn't. So that kind of leaves things a little
Yeah.
dicey for him. Thank you. Uh, Yes, yes. State your name, please.
Ivy Swanson, sir.
All right, Mr. Swanson, you're arrested on a charge of littering, violation of county ordinance. You have a bond of $250. If he wants to resolve it today, that's fine. If he doesn't, I would consider pretrial release since he does apparently qualify, but
We're sure that this is an arrestable offense, right?
I'm not familiar with the Orange County ordinance, but,
It is.
I'm familiar with the ordinance, I just didn't think that it was,
well, then I'll release him out of recognizance and you all can work it out if you want to do it
Okay.
that way.
Alternatively, Your Honor, if he wished to resolve today, the state's offer would be a withholding credit time served.
Okay. Either way you want.
all right. I'll accept no plea.
Okay. So, then we still have, I don't have a sheet for this one. Okay. All right, as to, while he's looking at that, as to Mr. Torres Diaz, inmate 190-12794. Thank you. All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Swanson, raise your right hand, please.
Yes, sir.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name.
Ivy Swanson.
Okay, you can put your hand down, Mr. Swanson. Ms. Swanson, you arrest for littering, which is a county ordinance violation, which apparently is punishable by up to 60 days in the county jail, 6 months probation, and/or a fine of up to $500. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
You have the right to have a trial in this case to determine whether the state can prove that you committed this crime. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
If you chose to go to trial, you'd have all the rights that are written on this plea form. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
And did you read and fully understand the written plea form?
I did.
Did you have any questions about anything on the plea form?
Yes, sir.
Are you currently under the influence of medication, drugs, or alcohol?
Yes, sir. No.
Are you thinking clearly at this time?
Yes, I am.
Now, your attorney has raised an issue that this might not be an arrestable offense. You may have a factual or legal defense to this charge, but you understand by entering a plea of no contest, you're giving up any possible defense you might have.
Yes, sir.
All right? Do you believe it's in your best interest to enter the plea?
Yes, sir.
I can't imagine them doing it, but if you're not a United States citizen, entering this plea could subject you to deportation. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. You know, I can't see this being a huge appeal issue, but I do find that you're alert and intelligent, that you understand the nature of the charge against you, the penalties you're facing, and the rights you're giving up by entering the plea, and finding your decision to enter the plea has been freely and voluntarily made. I'll accept the plea of no contest. Is there anything further to be said before sentence is imposed?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Swanson, court will withhold adjudication of guilt. You'll be sentenced to 2 days in the Orange County Jail with credit for the 2 days that you've served. You're ordered to pay court costs of $223, or total $273, or?
273, he filled out
Right.
the form, correct?
Yes,
273.
$273. I'll reduce that amount in the judgment. All
Thank
right?
you, Your Honor.
Very well, good luck to you.
Thank
Don't throw your cigarettes out on the ground or whatever it was. All right. I think that's it.
Your Honor, one more, Bowers, did Bowers bond?
All right. Was that covered, or? Okay. All right, well, you all have a great weekend.
Thank you,
Left
too.
of it?